Chapter 1308. Jialo Kai Ling also looked at Du Xiaofu, her eyes rippling. She then glared at Du Xiaofu and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Watch out for Long Feng and Long Bao. Dragons don't trust each other." As soon as she finished speaking, Jialo Kai Ling looked at Du Xiaofu strangely. She sensed a strange energy fluctuation coming from Du Xiaofu's body. It seemed to be able to affect the energy of heaven and earth around him. "I know what to do." Du Xiaofu nodded. Looking at Long Feng and Long Bao, he said, "If you want me to release Dragon 8, then let's make an exchange. I'm a man of integrity. This savage fella is trying to threaten the dragon race." Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, and Little Ying were all dumbfounded. It turned out that the ferocious Devil King had captured Dragon 8, but instead of using him to protect himself, he had dared to threaten the dragon race. "Exchange?" Long Feng was stunned. Looking down at Du Xiaofu, he said darkly, "Brat, what do you want in exchange?" "Whatever treasure you think is worth exchanging for Dragon 8's life is fine. That depends on how much Dragon 8 means to you." Du Xiaofu looked at Long Feng and Long Bao and said, "But I'll make it clear first. If I don't think the treasure you take out is worth Dragon 8's life, then don't blame me for killing Dragon 8. Brat, you dare to threaten us?" Long Bao shouted. No one had ever dared to threaten the dragons, let alone a puny human. Before Long Bao could finish speaking, Long Feng signaled to stop Long Bao with his eyes. Looking at Du Xiaofu, his huge dragon body transformed into human form. His white clothes fluttered, and his aura seemed to be in a sorry state. He reached out and threw an item to Du Xiaofu, saying, "Brat, if you dare to go back on your words, I, the dragons, will not let you go." Du Xiaofu reached out, and a suction force surged out, catching the item Long Feng threw into his hand. A wave of energy suddenly, a glow spread out from his palm. Opening his hand, Du Xiaofu only then did he see that it was a short sword. Its aura ancient god, its body its rune. A high-level magic weapon! Feeling the short sword in his hand, Du Xiaofu's eyes immediately flashed with joy. This short sword was definitely a high-level magic weapon, which was also important to the beast race. However, to the dragons, the phoenixes, and the golden-winged rocks, other than those heaven-defying weapons, ordinary magic weapons were a burden to them. As supreme being demonic beasts, their bodies were invincible. If they relied on weapons, ordinary weapons would affect their bodies instead. "Brat, it's time to let him go." Long Feng looked at Du Xiaofu, his eyes flickering with yin and yang. Du Xiaofu unceremoniously put away the short sword, but there was no joy on his face. Instead, it became gloomier. He said coldly, "Long Feng, do you think I've never seen a treasure before? Or do you think Dragon 8 is worthless in your eyes? It's just a high-level magic weapon, and you want to exchange it for Dragon 8's life? Maybe you just want to kill Dragon 8 with a borrowed knife. Brat, you!" Long Feng was stunned. Long Feng was stunned. Borrowing someone else's knife to kill the 8th dragon. If something really happened to the 8th dragon, they wouldn't be able to explain themselves when they go back to the dragon race. The dragon race was huge, and the princes weren't on good terms with each other. If this news were to spread to the dragon race, even if they were innocent, it would still cause a storm. "Brat, what do you want?" Long Feng roared, and his huge dragon body turned into human form. His face was gloomy, but there was nothing he could do. "I said, let's see how much Dragon 8 is worth in your eyes." Du Xiaofu was unusually calm at this moment. "Bastard!" Long Feng was furious, and his face was gloomy. He waved his hand, and a storage ring was thrown to Du Xiaofu. He said, "This is a treasure that we obtained not long ago. It's priceless, but if you can't comprehend it, then it's your problem. If you still don't think it's enough, then come back with me to the dragons. We don't have any other treasures on us." In fact, Long Feng's words were fake. He accidentally obtained the item in the Qianquan bag not long ago. He felt that it was extraordinary, but he couldn't comprehend anything. It would be a pity to throw it away, but he didn't find anything useful in it, so he kept it with him. At this moment, Long Feng had made up his mind. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, was a greedy and insignificant human. He might be a bottomless pit, so he couldn't be controlled by others forever. Du Xiaofu received the Qianquan bag from Long Bao. His mind moved slightly. He discovered that there were no restrictions on the Qianquan bag. He immediately looked into the Qianquan bag. When Du Xiaofu saw the items within the Qianquan bag, his calm and indifferent face could not help but tremble violently. Immediately, his resolute and determined face twitched as golden light gushed out from his eyes. "Kid, you should let him go!" Long Feng looked at Du Xiaofu, and his expression changed. He knew what Long Bao had given to Du Xiaofu. In any case, Du Xiaofu couldn't comprehend anything from that item. It was possible that they had misjudged it, and that item wasn't a treasure at all. However, it was a good idea to use it to trick Du Xiaofu. "Okay, let him go. I've always been a trustworthy person." Du Xiaofu smiled and threw Dragon 8 to Long Feng. "He's really going to let him go. This is going to be troublesome." When they saw that Du Xiaofu had really let Dragon 8 go, the Phantom Tiger King, Little Ying, Violent Bear King, and Divine Ape King's expressions changed. Without Dragon 8 as a hostage, if the dragons went back on their words, the consequences would be severe. At this moment, more than a dozen golden-winged rocks from the golden-winged rock clan had also transformed into their human forms. When they saw that Du Xiaofu had really let Dragon 8 go, their expressions changed. Even Jialo Kailing's eyes twitched. At this moment, she couldn't wait to kick Du Xiaofu. This bastard had really let Dragon 8 go. If the dragons went back on their words, the consequences would be severe. Chi. Long Feng grabbed Dragon 8 in his hand, and after checking it, he handed Dragon 8 over to Long Ao, who was behind him, and nodded slightly to Long Feng. Dragon 8 was seriously injured, and it would be impossible for him to recover in a short period of time. However, he was still alive. "Puny human, you've caused enough trouble. Today, you must die for toying with us dragons." Long Feng no longer had any scruples. His aura soared to the sky as he shouted to the dragons beside him. "Kill him. Don't let a single one of them go. You must pay the price for toying with us dragons." Not good. The dragons really went back on their words. Palace Master shouldn't have returned Dragon 8 to them. The Phantom Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Little Falcon, Little Ying, and Divine Ape King were immediately depressed. They were afraid that the dragons would go back on their words, but they didn't expect that they had guessed correctly. Stupid boy. Jialo Kailing, who was beside Du Xiaofu, couldn't help but glare at Du Xiaofu fiercely. Even Little Star looked helplessly at his godfather at this moment. However, Du Xiaofu remained unmoved. He looked at Long Feng and Long Bao with a faint smile, and said, "Are you sure you want to take action? Don't blame me for not warning you. Once you take action, you'll regret it." Looking at Du Xiaofu's confident expression, Long Bao, Long Feng, and the others were secretly stunned. The Demon King Du Xiaofu was too strange, and it made them somewhat afraid. "Boy, do you think we're scared? Today you're dead." Long Bao's face sank, and his eyes twitched as he stared at Du Xiaofu gloomily. "Is that so?" Du Xiaofu had a faint smile on his face. Just as he finished speaking the second word, a hand seal suddenly appeared in his hand. An object suddenly appeared on his palm, and a brilliant light shone brightly. Chapter 1309. Roar! Amidst the faint cries of thousands of beasts, a small palace object appeared on Du Xiaofu's palm. An extremely ancient aura filled the air. This sudden change in aura attracted the attention of everyone around. Even the dragons Long Bao and Long Feng, as well as Jialo Kailing from the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan, could not help but look at Du Xiaofu in shock. Swoosh! Everyone watched as a ray of light shot out from the small palace object on Du Xiaofu's palm. Boom! In an instant, the surrounding sky trembled. Then, the ray of light converged and turned into a graceful figure that appeared in the void. The small palace object on Du Xiaofu's palm also quietly converged without leaving a trace. That graceful figure appeared. What a beautiful woman! Her skin was as smooth as jade, and she was dressed in a purple robe. There were faint traces of purple flames on her robe, outlining her seductive figure. Her temperament was otherworldly, and she was like a fairy who didn't belong to the mortal world. When this beautiful woman appeared, little Xingxing's eyes were stunned. Then, surprise surged in his rolling eyes. His small body immediately pounced on her, extremely happy. Mother! Little Xingxing's small body instantly pounced on the beautiful woman in the purple dress. His chubby face was full of smiles. She immediately opened her arms and hugged little Xingxing tightly in her embrace. She angrily said, "You wretched girl! You have worried me to death. I have instructed you to pay attention to your father. He is not strong enough and has many troubles. This time around, he has implicated you. Mother wants to see if you are all right. If anything happens, I will definitely not let him off." Hugging little Xingxing tightly, the beautiful woman anxiously checked little Xingxing. After confirming that there were no strands of hair, she was relieved. "Why? What do you mean by not strong enough and has a lot of trouble?" Du Xiaofu listened to the beautiful woman's words. His face alternated between green and red. He felt very uncomfortable in his heart. "Mother, you're hugging me too tightly. You're going to strangle me." Little Xingxing's tender face was filled with a blissful smile. The beautiful woman in the purple dress was naturally the purple flame demonic phoenix, Little Star's godmother. Purple Dragon Emperor's mother? That dragon's mother? But at this moment, Jialo Kailing, Long Foam, Violent Dragon, Ape Deity, Phantom Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Gui Che, and Guqin Devil Shanghuan Qi Xian were all stunned. Qin Demon, Ghost Chariot, Wild Bear King, Little Falcon, and the others already knew how strong the beautiful woman was. But seeing that she was Little Star's mother, and thinking about the fact that the Demon King Du Xiaofu was Little Star's father, they all looked at Du Xiaofu and the purple flame demonic phoenix with complicated expressions. "It's good that you're fine. You're not allowed to be with your father anymore." The purple flame demonic phoenix let go of Little Star. Her slender hand held Little Star's little hand as she swept her gaze across the surroundings, sensing the strange atmosphere. Her eyes were like purple suns, as if she could see through everything in the world. When her gaze swept across Long Foam, Jialo Kailing, and the others, her purple eyes rippled. "Mother, let's not talk about my father first. My father's strength is not as strong as you. He's injured." Little Star's eyes turned and pointed at Long Foam. He said, "It's those mixed-blood dragons who bullied me and my father. Mother, can you help me take revenge? They bullied you." Hearing that, the purple flame demonic phoenix immediately stared at Long Foam. That woman with a moving appearance, seductive figure, noble temperament, and a slightly charming charm was enough to make any woman envious and all men lose their minds. At that moment, a clear coldness spread out, causing purple flames to seep out of the sea of clouds in the surroundings for no reason. They were faintly discernible. Her purple eyes stared at Long Foam. Her voice was like the sound of nature, and it was like the sound of a fairy. The purple flame demonic phoenix opened her red lips slightly and said, "Slap yourselves twice, then scram back to the four seas." When that heavenly voice fell, the surroundings fell into a strange silence. Everyone was stunned. Even the young men and women of the golden-winged great rocks were no exception. That beautiful woman had made 2 dragons of the beast domain slap themselves and leave. How domineering was that? She was not inferior to the golden-winged great rocks. "Ha, who are you? You should know that being arrogant in front of the dragons is not a smart thing to do." Long Feng's expression was extremely cold, and his expression was slightly gloomy. However, he seemed to have sensed the invisible aura from the purple-dressed woman, and was forcefully suppressing his temper. How many people in this world would dare to ask a beast domain expert of the dragons to slap themselves in the face? "You don't need to know who I am. If you don't want to slap yourself, then I can only do it myself." The purple flame demonic phoenix's ethereal voice sounded out clearly. As soon as she finished speaking, her delicate hand directly slapped towards Long Foam. An invisible handprint passed through the air, creating a ripple that was difficult for ordinary people to detect. At that moment, Long Feng and Long Feng seemed to have suddenly sensed something, and their expressions changed drastically. Long Feng wanted to block something, but for some reason, he was caught off guard. Coupled with the fact that he was already riddled with wounds and had consumed a lot of energy, he found that it was difficult to resist. Pa! A crisp palm print appeared on Long Feng's face, revealing a blazing purple mark. Pa pa pa! Following that, a few more crisp slaps rang out in the eerily silent sky. Suddenly, the surrounding gazes were dumbfounded to discover that two palm prints had appeared on the left and right sides of Long Feng's and Long Bao's faces. Their faces were swollen, revealing a blazing purple mark. Pfft! Long Bao and Long Feng spat out blood from their mouths. Their bodies were sent flying dozens of feet away under countless incredulous gazes before they could stabilize their bodies. Sealed domain! The Phoenix Clan's sealed domain! Long Bao and Long Feng's faces were filled with shock. They seemed to have sensed something and guessed the aura of the purple flame demonic phoenix. Shock surged from the depths of their eyes. Jialo Kaling looked at the purple flame demonic phoenix. At that moment, violent fluctuations appeared in her golden eyes. How did it become so strong? Looking at everything before him, Du Xiaofu's heart was in no way inferior to the fantasy Tiger King and the others. Although Du Xiaofu knew that the purple flame demonic phoenix was at the beast domain realm, he didn't expect it to become so powerful. It must have broken through again, Du Xiaofu guessed inwardly. After leaving the heavenly beast tomb, the purple flame demonic phoenix's aura was no longer suppressed. In the end, when he sensed that the purple flame demonic phoenix's aura in the heavenly beast hall had begun to break through again, Du Xiaofu dared to exchange Long Feng for benefits. He definitely didn't trust the dragons. So strong! Gui Che, Guqi Nemo, Ape Divine King, Fantasy Tiger King, and the others looked at each other and sucked in a breath of cold air. You can scram now. The purple flame demonic phoenix looked at Long Feng and Long Bao. Its gaze was indifferent, but the coldness in its eyes sent chills down the spines of the surrounding dragons. The dragons trembled. Long Bao and Long Feng, two elders of the beast domain realm, couldn't even withstand a single blow, and could be sent flying with a single slap. If they fought, it would be tantamount to courting death. The green mountains will not change, and the clear waters will flow forever. Phoenix Clan, we dragons will remember this. Let's go! Long Bao and Long Feng looked at each other, then at the purple flame demonic phoenix, Jialo Kaling, and the others. In the end, they could only grit their teeth and leave. They knew that if they didn't leave now, they wouldn't be able to leave even if they wanted to. Whoosh whoosh! Following Long Feng and Long Bao's orders, the group of dragons, who had long been restless, immediately left. No one dared to linger. The group of dragons disappeared from the Divine Lightning Mountain range in the blink of an eye. Mother is so strong! Little Xingxing danced with joy as he watched the people of the Dragon Clan flee, not daring to stay any longer. The purple flame demonic phoenix looked at the dragons and Long Feng, then her purple eyes looked at little Xingxing. The corner of her mouth curled into a smile. The gaze in her eyes was ethereal and dazzling like fireworks. She held little Xingxing's little hand and said, "All right, come back with Mother. What do you think?" This, little Xingxing immediately quieted down. He looked at the purple flame demonic phoenix with a childish face and blinked his big eyes. His gaze swept across Jialo Kaling and the others, then he replied to the purple flame demonic phoenix. "Mother, let's leave this place first." "All right, let's leave this place first." Du Xiaofu also smiled and glanced at Jialo Kaling. Now that Long Bao and Long Feng had left, it was time for him to leave. With the purple flame demonic phoenix, he would be safe. At the same time, Du Xiaofu was worried that the purple flame demonic phoenix would attack the golden winged rock. That woman had always wanted the golden winged rock's bones. Now that the golden winged rock was right in front of her, things were not looking good. "All right." To Du Xiaofu's surprise, the purple flame demonic phoenix nodded her head. Little Xingxing said that he wanted to leave first, so she naturally had no objections. However, at this moment, the purple flame demonic phoenix's purple eyes fell on the young men and women of the golden-winged Great Rock clan, as well as Jialo Kaling. Du Xiaofu, you can't leave. You have something that belongs to the golden-winged Great Rock clan. Even if you leave today, you will be hunted down by the entire golden-winged Great Rock clan in the future. Jialo Kaling stopped Du Xiaofu. Her pale face looked a little better at this moment. Chapter 13:10. Hearing this, the purple flame demonic phoenix stopped and looked at Jialo Kaling and Du Xiaofu. You can't stop us now. Little Xingxing pouted and held the purple flame demonic phoenix's hand as she spoke to Jialo Kaling. With her godmother here, she knew that she didn't have to be afraid of Jialo Kaling. Spiritual Fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Gui Che, Guqin Demon, and the others all looked at the purple flame demonic phoenix. At this moment, as long as the purple flame demonic phoenix said that she wanted to leave, the Golden Rock clan wouldn't be able to stop her. She's right. Even if you leave today, the golden-winged Great Rocks will already know about you. At that time, even if you run to the ends of the earth, you won't be able to escape the pursuit of the golden-winged Great Rocks, said the purple flame demonic phoenix as she looked at Du Xiaofu. What does this woman mean? Du Xiaofu's expression immediately froze. He had a bad feeling about this. The purple flame demonic phoenix must be planning something. Du Xiaofu, if you leave today, I won't be the one chasing after you. I won't be as easy to talk to as I am. Even if you go to the ends of the earth, you won't be able to escape the pursuit of my golden-winged Great Rocks. Jialo Kaling looked at Du Xiaofu seriously and said, Come back with me. No matter what, I will protect your life. Moreover, even if you help us this time, the elders in the clan will consider punishing you lightly. Thank you for saving me. If you come back with us, I will definitely plead with the elders and won't make things too difficult for you. However, if you leave now, things will be different. A young and beautiful woman walked out. She looked to be in her mid-20s. She was the one Du Xiaofu had saved earlier. At this moment, she looked at Du Xiaofu with gratitude in her eyes. You've helped us this time. No matter what happens, we'll help you plead with the elders. More than a dozen young men and women of the golden-winged Great Rocks looked at Du Xiaofu and the others and said. In their hearts, Du Xiaofu was already part of their clan. You should go to the golden-winged Great Rocks and explain. Someone will plead for you. When the time comes, there won't be too much danger. The purple flame demonic phoenix looked at Du Xiaofu with an ambiguous smile. Then, she sent a message to Du Xiaofu. Now is your chance. Once you reach the Golden-Winged Rock clan, you'll definitely be able to find the secret bones of the Golden-Winged Rock clan. Ordinary Golden-Winged Rock clan's secret bones don't have complete engravings, so they won't be of much use to me. The secret bones of the Golden-Winged Rock clan will definitely be the best. Don't forget you owe me. You're sending me to my death. Du Xiaofu replied unhappily to the purple flame demonic phoenix. This woman was ruthless. She had actually sent him to the golden-winged Great Rocks for the secret bones of the golden-winged Great Rocks. The girl before you must have a high status in the golden-winged Great Rocks, or Tianzi wouldn't be so strong. With her pleading, you won't die. The purple flame demonic phoenix sent a message to Du Xiaofu without holding back. Du Xiaofu's expression remained unchanged. He continued to send a message to the purple flame demonic phoenix. When the time comes, the golden-winged Great Rocks will take my secret bones. That's equivalent to taking my life. Even if I survive, I'll probably become a cripple in the future. If you leave now, the golden-winged Great Rocks will definitely not let you go. At that time, you won't even be a cripple. You'll be a dead man. The purple flame demonic phoenix's voice was calm and indifferent. Her voice was as pleasant as the sound of nature. You won't have an easy time even if I die. Don't forget that you were the one who killed the golden-winged Great Rocks in the mountain of savage beasts. If the golden-winged Great Rocks find out, you probably won't have an easy time either. Du Xiaofu replied sternly. An undetectable ripple flickered through the purple flame demonic phoenix's eyes. She looked at Du Xiaofu and sent a message. At worst, I'll just hide in my clan. The golden-winged great rocks won't be able to do anything to me. However, you're different. Even if you go to the ancient heaven sect, they won't be able to protect you. They might even turn the ancient heaven sect into a river of blood. Your desolate kingdom won't be able to escape the massacre of the golden-winged great rocks either. You! Du Xiaofu stared at the purple flame demonic phoenix, but he was speechless. If you go to the golden-winged great rocks, you won't necessarily be in trouble. You cultivate the golden-winged great rocks cultivation technique. The strange changes in your body make you no different from a real golden-winged great rocks. If you can gain benefits from the golden-winged great rocks and comprehend in their secret area, it will be of great benefit to your nirvana and breakthrough to the martial domain realm. The opportunity is right in front of you. Whether it's a blessing or a curse, you don't know yet. You have to make your own choice. If you want to leave now, I won't stop you either. The purple flame demonic phoenix's beautiful voice once again fell into Du Xiaofu's ears. As the purple flame demonic phoenix's voice fell, Jialo Kailing looked at Du Xiaofu. Her pale golden eyes were serious, but there were some complicated ripples hidden in them. She said, Du Xiaofu, you can make your own choice. If you want to leave, I can't stop you today. However, you'll have to face it sooner or later. If you go back with me, I'll try my best to plead for you. Whether you believe it or not, this is for your own good. Father. Little Xingxing looked around and then stared at Du Xiaofu in a daze. Du Xiaofu looked at Jialo Kailing and the purple flame demonic phoenix in front of him. His gaze wasn't very good. He was carefully thinking about the words of the purple flame demonic phoenix and Jialo Kailing. Whether it's a blessing or a curse, it's fated. Anyway, it can't run away. After a while, Du Xiaofu gritted his teeth and looked at Jialo Kailing. He said, All right, I'll go back with you. Du Xiaofu looked at Gui Che, Guqin Demon, Spiritual Tiger King, Violent Bear King, and the others. He said, This has nothing to do with you. I'll go alone. If I can come back alive, I'll fulfill my promise to you. Palace Master, Spiritual Tiger King, Little Falcon, Violent Bear King, and the others were moved. At this moment, they could feel that the cruel Demon King didn't want to implicate them. There's no need to say more. Du Xiaofu waved his hand at Spiritual Tiger King and the others. He then said to the purple flame demonic phoenix, You also bring Little Xingxing back. No, I want to be with Father. Little Xingxing pulled Du Xiaofu's hand and said, If they dare to touch us, I'm not someone to be trifled with. Palace Master, I'll go with you. I'm not strong enough, but I'm willing to be with you. Little Falcon looked up with a determined gaze. Me too. Spiritual Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Little Ying, and even Gui Che said that they wanted to go together. It's not good for me to not go alone. Guqin Demon Shangguan Qi smiled bitterly and said, The Golden Winged Rock Clan isn't a place where ordinary people can enter. This is also an opportunity. Jialo Kailing looked at everyone and said, It's fine if you all go together. This time, with your help, you won't make things difficult for others in the clan. After a while, Jialo Kailing took out another flying artifact. It was slightly inferior to the big ship and looked like a flying demonic beast. Whoosh! Everyone leaped onto the flying artifact and once again flew through the sky above the sea of clouds. Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged with mixed feelings. He didn't know whether it was a blessing or a curse to enter the Golden Winged Rock Clan. He had the Golden Winged Rock Clan's mystic bone and the Golden Rock Wings. According to the Golden Winged Rock Clan's character, Du Xiaofu knew that the Golden Winged Rock Clan would not give up so easily. He needed to explain things clearly. Du Xiaofu had also thought about the purple flame demonic phoenix's words. He was cultivating the cultivation method of the Golden Winged Great Rocks. Back then, he had already benefited a lot from the enlightenment of the Golden Winged Great Rocks. If he could gain more enlightenment in the Golden Winged Great Rocks, it would definitely be the most important opportunity. Chapter 13:11. Du Xiaofu knew very well that although he had the mysterious bones of the Golden Winged Rock and the wings of the Golden Winged Rock, the beast abilities of the Golden Winged Rock were also related to the bloodline. The blood of the golden-winged rock came from the mysterious bones in his body. As for the golden-winged rock bone, its strength was originally above Du Xiaofu's original level of strength. It was a terrifying existence, but with Du Xiaofu's current level of cultivation, it was somewhat insufficient. The mystic bone golden-winged great rock's secret runes were incomplete, and its beast energy was insufficient. If Du Xiaofu wanted to advance further in the future, he would most likely be restricted. If he could obtain benefits from the golden-winged great rocks, he would be able to break through the shackles of his mystic bones. Du Xiaofu had no choice but to grit his teeth and go to the golden-winged great rocks. First, I'll adjust my breathing. Du Xiaofu pondered for a while. He formed a seal with his hands and used the cultivation method of the golden-winged great rocks to refine the dragon blood and elixirs that he had swallowed. No matter what, he had to recover to his peak condition first. That way, he would have an extra layer of protection. The illusion Tiger King and the others also sat cross-legged on the flying Dharma artifact and began to recover. The Divine Ape King, Fire Wyrm King, Silver Blood Leopard King, and the others naturally followed Little Xingxing. Since Little Star wanted to accompany Du Xiaofu, the Purple Flame Demonic Phoenix naturally wouldn't leave either. The group headed towards the great golden-winged rocks. 2 days later, in front of the flying magic tool, the clouds overlapped, and a special fluctuation appeared. Huff huff! One by one, the young men and women of the golden-winged rocks stood up, exhaling turbid air from their mouths. Their auras fluctuated as they stood up. Their eyes were filled with joy as they looked ahead. Huff huff! The Purple Flame Demonic Phoenix, Little Star, Ape Deity King, Phantom Tiger King, Guqing Demon, Ghost Chariot, and the others all stopped their breathing and opened their eyes. Bright light shot out from their eyes like a waterfall. Du Xiaofu also stopped regulating his breathing. The golden energy halo around his body slowly receded, and a trace of redness returned to his face. Ahead is the spatial spirit formation of the golden-winged great rocks. It was set up by the experts of the golden-winged great rocks since the ancient era. Jialo Kaling got up and walked in front of the flying instrument. She formed a seal in her hand, and a golden light shot out, penetrating the space in front of the sea of clouds. Then, the space in front of her shattered like a mirror, revealing a void. The flying Dharma artifact shuttled through the air and disappeared into the void. Their line of sight dimmed for a brief moment before light shone out. A vast space appeared below everyone's line of sight. High mountains and groups of peaks were continuous, with precipitous cliffs and precipitous precipices. The Ningbai River flowed forward in torrents, winding and spiraling. The earth was deep and quiet, and in the space, there was a dense energy of heaven and earth rushing out. The domineering aura of the formless golden-winged rock made everyone tremble. The flying Dharma artifact slowly landed, and the space became spacious and beautiful. The peaks were lined up, and the mountains were scattered. Further away, there were faint mountain scars that rose and fell continuously, connecting the clouds and the sky. At this moment, the sun was setting in the west, and the setting sun sprinkled golden light on the earth. The entire ancient city of the golden-winged great rocks was draped with a cicada-like golden gauze, looking mysterious and long. Swoosh, swoosh, when the flying Dharma artifact slowly landed in a square, many figures flew over from afar. There were ancient palaces and buildings in the surrounding mountains. Chief Commander, are you back? Many young men and women flew over from afar, and they were extremely respectful to Jialo Kaling. They looked at the Purple Flame Demonic Phoenix, Little Star, Du Xiaofu, and the others, but they were puzzled and surprised. Yes. Jialo Kaling nodded, and her eyes were completely relieved. She said to the young men and women, "Take the guests to the guest rooms to rest. I want to see the elders immediately." Yes, Chief Commander. The young men and women of the golden-winged great rocks were puzzled. Not everyone was qualified to be guests of the golden-winged great rocks, but they still politely led Du Xiaofu and the others away. As expected of the golden-winged great rocks, Du Xiaofu was secretly surprised as he looked at the young men and women of the golden-winged great rocks. They were all in the Beast Supreme realm, and their bloodline was so high. They were indeed worthy of being called the Supreme Beast Clan. Some other beast clans might not be able to reach the beast supreme realm even if they cultivated until their deaths. For the beast clans, the bloodline in their bodies limited their future achievements, just like the cultivation talent and martial veins of the human race. To a certain extent, it also limited their future achievements. Night fell. Du Xiaofu, the purple flame demonic phoenix, Little Star, the phantom tiger king, the ghost chariot, the Guqing demon, and the 8 god king were arranged to stay in an ancient palace. Although the young men and women of the golden-winged great rocks were not too polite along the way, they were still polite. After sending everyone here, the young men and women hurriedly left, and told Du Xiaofu and the others not to run around. Whether it's a blessing or a curse, we'll know tomorrow morning. In a small hall, only Du Xiaofu, Little Star, and the purple flame demonic phoenix were present. After setting up a seal, Du Xiaofu sighed. At this moment, Du Xiaofu guessed that Jialo Kaling was probably talking to the elders of the golden-winged great rocks about him. He would know tomorrow how the golden-winged great rocks would treat him. Now that he had arrived at the golden-winged great rocks, Du Xiaofu knew that if he wanted to force his way out, his chances of leaving were close to 0. Just entering the boundary of the golden-winged great rocks was not an ordinary boundary. Even with the help of the 5 Fingers Mountain's vain spirit, he would not be able to leave as he wished. Although he had not seen any terrifying experts in the golden-winged great rocks, Du Xiaofu had already sensed several obscure auras sweeping past with his sharp senses. Every aura was unfathomably vast. Even the younger generation of the golden-winged great rocks had mostly reached the level of sovereign beast. Du Xiaofu could imagine how terrifying the older generation of the golden-winged great rocks would be with their supreme bloodline. Father, don't worry. Although Jialo Kaling is difficult to deal with, she said that she would plead for you. Moreover, we have saved them this time, so it should be fine. Little Xingxing looked at Du Xiaofu and sighed. He comforted him and blinked his bewitching big eyes. Whether it's a blessing or a curse, we can't avoid it. We will know tomorrow. Du Xiaofu stretched his back and shrugged his shoulders. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they came. The heavenly beast hall is in your hands? The purple flame demonic phoenix asked. She looked at Du Xiaofu with astonishment. She had been in the heavenly beast hall all this time, so it was not difficult for her to know that the heavenly beast hall had fallen into the hands of that guy. Yes, it's just luck. Du Xiaofu nodded. He looked at the purple flame demonic phoenix and said, You must have obtained the inheritance inside, right? That's right. It has allowed me to advance another step. If I were to cultivate alone, I would not have made such progress even after hundreds of years. The purple flame demonic phoenix looked at Du Xiaofu and said, I have to thank you. I was suppressed in the heavenly beast tomb and was unable to make a breakthrough even after obtaining the inheritance. If I were to stay here for a long time, it would affect my cultivation foundation and in the worst case, I would suffer from qi deviation. Du Xiaofu smiled. He raised his eyebrows and asked, Longbao said that you were in the sealed domain realm. What is the realm above the martial domain realm and the beast domain realm? The sealed domain realm is only one of the 6 subrealms in the martial domain realm and the beast domain realm. The 6 subrealms are initial domain, sealed domain, great domain, bounded domain, domain and master domain. The purple flame demonic phoenix looked at Du Xiaofu. In the end, her eyes shone with a purple radiance and said, Above the martial domain realm is the legendary Saint Martial realm. That is the realm that all living things in the world want to reach. It is the pinnacle of all living things in the world. Saint Martial realm. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows inwardly. If he could reach the Saint Martial realm one day, perhaps his family would be able to reunite, and he would be able to take revenge for the 7-star hall in Tianwu Academy. However, the Saint Martial realm has always been a legend. I don't know if the Saint Martial realm still exists in this world. Perhaps only after reaching a certain level of strength will one be able to know more about this world. Continued the purple flame monstrous phoenix. I will definitely reach the Saint Martial realm in the future. Little Xingxing clenched his fists tightly. His bewitching eyes were filled with determination and a faint golden flame flickered in them. In the cool and colorful night, the mountain peaks seemed to be covered with a silver veil under the moonlight. A human brat dares to touch my clan's secret bone and great pink golden wings. Interesting. In the courtyard of the mountain peak, a tall and straight young man was looking at the sky. Golden light flickered in his eyes. Fourth Commander, the first commander seems to be protecting that human. It is said that they encountered the dragons on their way back. It is all thanks to that human's help. A yellow-clothed woman behind the tall and straight young man said. No matter what, the secret bone and great pink golden wings of the golden-winged great pink bird clan cannot be tainted by a puny human. The tall and straight young man looked rather calm and said, I will go and take a look tomorrow morning. Night fell and the secluded valley was hazy. Grandma, I am back. The secluded valley courtyard was ordinary and quiet. Giallo Kaling appeared at the entrance of the quiet courtyard. Her voice was soft and gentle as she stood outside the door respectfully. How is the situation in the heavenly beast tomb? Did anyone obtain it? In the courtyard, an aged voice resounded slowly. We did not obtain anything from the heavenly beast tomb. The dragons and phoenixes are similar. We fought with the dragons on the way back. In the end, someone helped us, and we did not suffer any losses. Giallo Kaling's voice was soft and gentle as she stood outside the courtyard and spoke respectfully. That's good. It is too chaotic outside. Stay in the clan and cultivate in peace. The old voice sounded again. It's a pity that you've already broken through to the initial domain realm. Otherwise, your hopes for the competition among the younger generation wouldn't be lower than Jiuyu's. He's been suppressing his cultivation to the half-domain realm, but you couldn't endure it and broke through in the end. Jiuyu's talent is rare in our clan. It is difficult for me to compare with him. Kaling will comprehend it well in the future and strive not to fall too far behind Jiuyu. Giallo Kaling said with a faint smile. Your talent is not below Jiuyu's by much. The old voice in the courtyard fluctuated a little, with a slightly reproachful tone. Grandma, I have something to tell you, but it is not confirmed yet. Don't be sad, Giallo Kaling said to the old voice in the courtyard after hesitating for a while. Is it news about Jiuyu? After a while, the old voice in the courtyard continued to speak. Chapter 13:12. It's possible that Zhu Ho has already. Giallo Kailing looked into the courtyard and hesitated. She bit her red lips. Has he been killed? The old voice in the courtyard suddenly became agitated. I can't be sure yet. This time, I brought back a human. He has a secret bone of my clan in his body. According to what he said, the secret bone might be Zhu Ho's. Giallo Kailing said. Kailing, come in and tell me the details. The old voice was trembling. Giallo Kailing looked up. For the past few decades, no one had been able to take half a step into the courtyard. Night enveloped the courtyard. In the room, Du Xiaofu set up a restriction and entered the desolate ancient space. The injuries on his body were quite serious. He needed time to recover to his peak condition. Du Xiaofu could only enter the desolate ancient space to buy time. In the misty space, a secret bone appeared in Du Xiaofu's hand. It was the bone that he had obtained from the purple flame demonic phoenix not long ago. This secret bone was the secret bone that the purple flame demonic phoenix had taken from the ancient viper in front of the heavenly beast hall in the heavenly beast tomb. The secret bones of the ancient hook serpent, the three-headed sea dragon snake, the black water mystical snake, and the three-headed sea dragon snake had always been with Du Xiaofu. After obtaining the heavenly spirit record left behind by his master, Duanmuqiongtian, Du Xiaofu naturally obtained the method to activate the four serpent skeletons. At this moment, the great golden-winged rock clan was in an uncertain situation. Du Xiaofu wanted to restore and control the four serpent skeletons first. At that time, he would be able to increase his strength. After all, the four serpent skeletons were extraordinary. Although he had obtained the method to control and activate the four serpent skeletons, this was the first time Du Xiaofu had come into contact with them. He was quite nervous. In the desolate ancient space, Du Xiaofu found the method to control and activate the four serpent skeletons in the heavenly spirit record. After studying it carefully, he found that the 4 serpent skeletons were also a type of puppet. The method to control and activate them was quite different from ordinary puppets. However, there wasn't much of a difference. It was very complicated and profound. Of course, the 4 serpent skeletons were already refined. The difficulty of the desolate ancient space was 90% of the ancient Tao. The ancient snake ancient book was the refining. The hardest part was refining. Du Xiaofu found out from the heavenly spirit record that with his current cultivation as an 8-star Nirvana spirit talisman master, if he wanted to refine 4 skeletal puppets of that level for his own use, even if he went all out, his success rate wouldn't exceed 30%. After pondering for a while, Du Xiaofu summoned the Sky Beast Hall from the desolate ancient space and stepped into it. In a spacious space inside the Heavenly Beast Palace, the skeletons of the ancient viper, the 3-headed sea dragon snake, the dark water mystic snake, and the ancient hook snake were hovering. Du Xiaofu's eyes landed on the skeletons of the ancient viper, the 3-headed sea dragon snake, the black water mystical snake, and the ancient hook serpent. His eyes trembled. He could still feel the beast aura from the 4 skeletons. Huff! After taking a deep breath, 4 mysterious bones appeared in Du Xiaofu's hand. They were the mysterious bones that had been pulled out from the ancient viper, the 3-headed sea dragon snake, the ancient hook serpent, and the black water mystical snake. Swoosh, swoosh! The mysterious bones emitted a resplendent light. There was a faint snake hiss that sounded like a dragon's roar. Subsequently, a white electric arc wrapped around the bones and threw them into the 4 serpent skeletons in Du Xiaofu's hand. Qi La! As the 4 resplendent runes on the bones entered the 4 skeletons, the aura of the 4 skeletons immediately began to fluctuate. The 4 huge skeletons were gradually wrapped by resplendent runes. Their empty eyes began to flicker with a terrifying and empty light. I must succeed in one go. Otherwise, I will be in big trouble. As he watched the 4 huge skeletons begin to recover, killing intent gradually gushed out from the 4 skeletons' empty eyes. Du Xiaofu's eyes could not help but twitch. Boom! In a short period of time, the 4 huge skeletons seemed to have come back to life. Their intimidating rune eyes stared at Du Xiaofu as their auras shook the space. Hiss hiss! The 4 huge creatures swallowed their rune tongues. As their huge bodies twisted, the sound of bones colliding could be heard. Their killing intent was sharp. Their huge bodies were like lightning. In an instant, they brought along a sharp and intimidating energy wind as they pounced towards Du Xiaofu. Come! Du Xiaofu's expression immediately sunk. His expression was incomparably serious. With a jerk of his purple sleeve, his body directly floated forward like a god. In an instant he broke through the air and appeared on top of the 4 serpent skeletons that were pouncing towards him. At this moment, the entire Heavenly Beast Hall was under Du Xiaofu's control and he had already gained the upper hand. Otherwise, given Du Xiaofu's current exhaustion and injuries, he would not dare to deal with these 4 skeletons by himself. Although Du Xiaofu was nervous in his heart, he had the Heavenly Spirit record on him. At the same time, he also had control of the Heavenly Beast Hall. Hence, he had some confidence. In order to save time, Du Xiaofu did this. Otherwise, it would undoubtedly be much safer to control them one by one. Sizzle! As Du Xiaofu's body appeared in the air above the 4 serpent skeletons in a ghost-like manner, he borrowed the advantage of the Heavenly Beast Hall to easily avoid the 4 skeletons. Subsequently, he secretly formed a hand seal. A thought passed through his mind and a silver-yellow yuan spirit power surged out from between his brows in all directions like a vast and mighty silver-yellow lightning arc. At this moment, the yuan spirit power between Du Xiaofu's brows seemed to have transformed into a silver-yellow lightning arc that covered the sky and the earth. It wrapped around the foreheads of the 4 skeletons. Du Xiaofu knew the weakness of these 4 skeletons from the Heavenly Spirit record. Moreover, these 4 skeletons only had an instinctive killing intent and had yet to be controlled by anyone. They were equivalent to ownerless objects, and would not be too difficult to deal with. Even though these skeletal puppets were powered by the mysterious bones, a wisp of their original beast souls still existed in their minds. However, the self-imprint on the beast's spirit had already been completely destroyed. The refiner had left behind the killing intent and refined the skeletons to be even stronger than their bodies when they were alive. This way, they could be turned into killing machines. As for the controller, all they had to do was place their soul imprint in a special way, and they would be able to control it. Du Xiaofu knew that these 4 skeletons had been refined by his master, Duanmu Qiongtian. Apart from the Heavenly Spirit Records method of placing a Yuan spirit soul imprint, it was almost impossible to do it with any other method. Once he placed a Yuan spirit soul imprint, if others wanted to deal with these 4 skeletons in the future, they would have to use absolute strength to forcefully destroy them. It was almost impossible to snatch them from another master. Due to the change of master, the Yuan spirit soul imprint placed in the skeletons was hidden extremely deeply and was extremely special. Unless one's Yuan spirit was several times stronger, it was almost impossible to destroy it. Walala! As Du Xiaofu's earth-shattering Yuan spirit power surged out, it gathered in an extremely special way to form runes that surged into the foreheads of the 4 skeletons. In an instant, the 4 skeletons that were surging with killing intent quieted down. In the end, even the killing intent in their eyes began to fade. Seeing this, Du Xiaofu's face revealed some joy. However, he still did not let his guard down. Hand seals formed one after another, turning into Yuan spirit imprints that landed in the foreheads of the 4 skeletons. Qi! 2 hours later, Du Xiaofu returned to the ancient desolate space from the heavenly beast hall. His face was pale, but there was a smile on his face. After placing a Yuan spirit imprint to control the 4 skeletons, they were undoubtedly much more difficult to deal with than their instinctive killing intent. In the misty space of the ancient desolate space, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged as he pondered. He did not know whether tomorrow would be a blessing or a curse. No matter what, Du Xiaofu knew that he could not die. If his bones were really dug out and his great pink golden wings were taken away, he could only fight with all his might. Du Xiaofu knew very well that once he died, even if he became a cripple, the revenge of his sect and the reunion of his family would truly be out of his reach. Drunkard father, are you still on the Tianhuang mainland? Mother, do you often think of us father and son, and Xiaojing, have your family completely recovered? Du Xiaofu murmured softly. His eyes were resolute, but they were also a little moist. Qi! A moment later, Du Xiaofu's hand seals formed, and his body was slowly enveloped in a pale golden energy halo. The energy of many dragon blood and elixirs in his body was waiting to be completely refined. Time passed slowly outside as this refining process continued. Dawn was like a sword, splitting the night sky and welcoming the rising sun. Walala! In the misty space, the time had already been equivalent to 5 days outside. Du Xiaofu's pale face regained its redness, and his breathing was long and even. The pale golden halo around his body was like a golden sun, and there was a faint golden ping that was about to soar into the sky, exuding a domineering pressure. Huff! The golden halo was like small golden energy snakes that mysteriously surged into his body, and a mouthful of turbid air was exhaled from his throat. Boom! As Du Xiaofu opened his slightly closed eyes, golden light surged in his eyes, and there was a faint lightning glow, the radiance of stars, and purple flames rippled. Light flashed out like lightning, and his aura shook the surrounding misty space violently. Chapter 13:13. The sky was already bright. The light of dawn peeled away the veil of night, revealing the brilliant light of dawn. Crackle! Outside the ancient courtyard at the mountainside, Du Xiaofu stretched lazily, the joints all over his body creaking as he moved. Phew! Du Xiaofu felt that the divine gate in his body was filled with profound energy, and the primordial spirit energy in his mind was also filled to the brim. He took a deep breath and looked into the distance. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu raised his eyes. Not far in front of him, a stumbling figure was walking up with difficulty. Du Xiaofu focused his eyes and looked carefully. It was an old woman who was staggering. She was sweeping the yellow leaves on the winding stone steps leading to the mountainside. A battle servant of the golden-winged Great Rock clan? Du Xiaofu was puzzled. When he entered the golden-winged Great Rock clan yesterday, he saw that there were many battle servants besides the golden-winged Great Rock clan. There were both young and old, and there were quite a few of them. These mundane tasks should be done by the battle servants. However, Du Xiaofu secretly observed the aura on the old lady and found it rather strange. There was no aura on the old lady, as if she was an ordinary person. This was definitely the first time Du Xiaofu had seen such a situation. Unless this old lady was a top-notch peerless expert who could restrain her aura to the point where it was completely natural, he would not be able to detect it with his cultivation. Otherwise, she should be just an ordinary person. Du Xiaofu could even detect the aura of the purple flame demonic phoenix at the martial domain realm. Du Xiaofu had always been confident in the power of his primordial spirit. Therefore, he could not detect any aura on the old lady at this moment. Du Xiaofu could not help but be surprised. Perhaps there really were ordinary people in the golden-winged Great Rock clan. If she really was a top-notch peerless expert, she would not have come up the mountain to sweep the path so early in the morning, Du Xiaofu thought to himself. Swish swish. Looking at the stumbling old lady for a while, Du Xiaofu flew down and landed lightly beside the old lady with some curiosity. The old lady's hair was speckled, and she wore a pale golden robe. She was seriously sweeping the yellow leaves on the stone steps. As if sensing Du Xiaofu's presence, the old lady raised her head slightly. Her wrinkled face she seemed to be carved by the vicissitudes of time. She squeezed out a smile. She looked very kind. "Granny, Granny, Granny, let me help you." Du Xiaofu smiled at the old lady and said, "You can rest for a while." "No. You are a guest of the Great Rock clan." The old granny madam shook. She shook. "That the Great Rock it's of golden dragon golden." "Maybe." Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly and did not continue. He took the strange-looking broom from the old granny madam's hand and copied her. He swept the yellow leaves on the stone steps and said, "Granny, you should rest for a while." "Oh, right. Are you a servant of the Great Rock clan?" "Servant? Yes, I have served the Great Rock clan for a long time. Since I was young, I can be considered a servant." The old granny madam was stunned. She straightened her stumbling and hunched body, and a bitter smile appeared on her wrinkled face. After that, the old lady stood there and looked at Du Xiaofu's back as he seriously swept the fallen leaves. After a while, she asked, "You just said that you are not a guest of the golden-winged Great Rocks. Then how did you enter this place?" "As far as I know, ordinary people can't enter the golden-winged Great Rocks. It's a long story. Let's not talk about it." Du Xiaofu helplessly smiled and seriously swept the leaves on the stone steps. "It's okay. It's been a long time since someone talked to this old woman. Otherwise, I would say things that are not true. If you don't mind this old woman, you can tell me." The old granny madam seemed to be very interested and said to Du Xiaofu, "Okay, I will talk to Granny." Du Xiaofu smiled and turned around to help the old granny madam up a few steps. He continued to sweep the leaves on the stone steps and said, "I grew up with my drunkard father. Our family was separated. When I was young, I could not cultivate. Although there were setbacks, my family never gave up on me. Until one day." As Du Xiaofu swept the leaves, he talked about everything that happened along the way. Originally, Du Xiaofu just wanted to talk to the old granny madam. However, in the end, he did not know whether today was a blessing or a curse, so he went off topic. From the time he unintentionally obtained the bone of a great rock in the barbaric Beast Mountain range, to the time someone from the legalism massacred Stone City, wanting to kill him, and then his drunkard father appeared. From the time he ventured into the dark forest, to the time he entered Tianwu Academy, to the time he was destroyed, to the time he entered the Ancient Heaven sect, obtained the Great Rock clan's supreme beast ability, and was tricked into entering the legalism. He never saw his mother and sister. They only wanted his heart, and dug it out to save his sister. After leaving the legalism, he thought that he would definitely die. Who would have thought that he would miraculously survive? In order to become strong, he went everywhere to temper himself and explore all kinds of dangerous places. In the sealed land, he became the #1 genius. In the Tianhuan continent, he killed Dragon 9 and became the #1 genius. This time, in the Beast region, he defeated Dragon 8 and Dragon 7. The old Granny Madam stood behind Du Xiaofu and silently listened to Du Xiaofu's story. When she first heard from Du Xiaofu that he unintentionally saw a great rock and a terrifying vicious beast in the barbaric Beast mountain range, and in the end, she unintentionally obtained the bone of a great rock, her wrinkled face secretly emitted a golden light. Then she heard about Du Xiaofu's tempering and the separation of the family. When she heard that Du Xiaofu was tricked into legalism, anger appeared on her face. She said in a low voice, "Those people from the legalism are really bastards. When she heard that Du Xiaofu was willing to dig out his heart to save his sister, the old Granny Madam's eyes became moist. She choked and said softly, "Poor child, the heavens are blind." When she heard that Du Xiaofu obtained the Great Rock's golden wings in the ancient Heaven sect, comprehended the Great Rock's supreme beast ability, and was recognized as its master, her eyes secretly emitted a golden light. He said, "The will of the heavens, all of this is the will of the heavens." When she heard that Du Xiaofu defeated 10 geniuses in the sealed land and became the #1 genius, her eyes filled with joy. She was as excited as a child. When she heard that Du Xiaofu killed Dragon 9 and defeated Dragon 7 and Dragon 8, she couldn't hide her excitement. She said, "Those guys from the Dragon clan are extremely arrogant. They call themselves supreme beasts, but in reality they aren't much. It's fine to kill a few of them. I want to become strong, I want to reunite with my family, I want to avenge my sect, and I want to protect my family and everything around me. But today, I don't know how the Great Rock clan will be dealt with." Du Xiaofu sighed. As his voice faded, he also finished sweeping the stone steps. Unknowingly, he had gone from the waist of the mountain to the peak. At this moment, the sun had completely risen in the east. The golden light was dazzling and enveloped this ancient land. Du Xiaofu faced the rising sun with a broom in his hand. His purple robe fluttered slightly, and his black hair scattered behind him. In addition to his tall and straight figure, the morning sun shone on his determined face, giving him an extraordinary charm. "Don't worry, child, everything will be fine." The old Granny Madam slightly raised her eyes and looked kindly at Du Xiaofu. "I hope so." Du Xiaofu turned around and smiled. He handed the broom to the old Granny Madam and said, "Granny, it's done." "Thank you." The old Granny Madam smiled. There was sadness and loneliness in her smile. She took the broom and looked at Du Xiaofu. She bent down and gently patted the dust on Du Xiaofu's purple robe with her withered hand. She said, "Look at you, sweeping the floor for me. You're dirty now." "Granny, I'm fine. I'm clean after patting." Du Xiaofu smiled innocently. Looking at the kind eyes of the old man in front of him, he felt a little sad. His grandparents seemed to have passed away early. He didn't even have any impression of them since he was young. If his grandparents were still alive, they would probably look old like him. "Silly boy, look at your shoulder. There are still leaves. As a man, you must always be clean. Only then will you look good. Do you hear me?" The old Granny Madam straightened her body and picked up a leaf on Du Xiaofu's shoulder. Her face was full of kindness as she spoke seriously. "Yes, I will pay attention in the future." Du Xiaofu nodded seriously. His heart was touched. The old Granny Madam looked at Du Xiaofu carefully and was very happy. Then she sighed softly and said, "If my grandson was still alive, he would have looked about your age, or maybe even a little older. You are very similar to him. It's a pity that he was unlucky and had a rebellious personality. He thought that he wasn't talented enough, and wanted to go out and make a name for himself. In the end, it's okay. If I don't die this time, Granny will be my grandmother in the future. I will think of a way to bring Granny out of the golden-winged Great Pink Bird clan and return home so that Granny can enjoy the rest of her life." Du Xiaofu looked at the kind Granny Madam in front of him and said seriously, "Ha ha, silly boy. What a silly boy." When the old lady heard this, she immediately smiled. However, on her wrinkled face, her eyes quietly became a little moist. Her voice was a little hoarse as her shriveled hand gently stroked Du Xiaofu's face and said, "All right, if Grandma has the chance in the future, I will definitely go back with you to take a look. In the future, you will be this old lady's grandson. Yes, as long as I don't die, I will definitely bring Granny away and take care of Granny for the rest of her life," Du Xiaofu said seriously. "Silly boy, Granny is not dead. How can you die? You will definitely be fine." The old Granny Madam smiled. Her smile was very kind and satisfied. She had not smiled in the past few decades. Suddenly, the old Granny Madam looked into the distance and said to Du Xiaofu, "Child, Granny still has things to do. I will leave first. Be well. Granny, this is for you. You are not a cultivator. After taking these elixirs, they can strengthen your body." Du Xiaofu took out many low-grade elixirs and handed them to the old Granny Madam. They were all elixirs that could strengthen one's body. Ordinary people would not have any problems taking them. It was unknown where they came from in the Qianquan bag. At the same time, Du Xiaofu also gave the old Granny Madam a lot of elixirs and elixirs. He said, "Granny, keep these well. If something happens to me today, you will be able to leave this place one day. Sell these things and you will be able to enjoy the rest of your life." The old Granny Madam was stunned. She took the elixirs and elixirs from Du Xiaofu's hands and smiled. Then she took the broom in her hand and turned to leave. This silly boy! The moment she turned around, the old Granny Madam's wrinkled face was wet, but her face was full of smiles. Chapter 13-14. Translator, H2DH2. Mr. Du Xiaofu gazed at the old lady descending the mountain, his gaze moving slightly. He also began to feel that this seemingly ordinary old lady was rather mysterious. Swoosh swoosh, as the old lady descended the mountain, two figures rushed up from the waist of the mountain. "Father, why are you here so early in the morning?" As the last word of the young child's voice sounded, little Xingxing's large eyes dashed in front of Du Xiaofu. Subsequently, a graceful figure slowly descended. She was otherworldly and her purple eyes were gorgeous. It was the purple flame demon Phoenix. "I came up for a walk." Du Xiaofu picked up little Xingxing and smiled, hiding the seriousness in his heart. "Who was that person just now?" The purple flame demon Phoenix opened her mouth and asked, looking at Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu turned his head and looked down the mountain. The stumbling old lady had disappeared. Secretly puzzled, he said, "An old granny." Hearing this, the purple flame demon Phoenix did not ask any more questions. Her beautiful figure turned and looked into the distance. Bathed in the morning sun, her graceful figure was very moving. The morning light outlined an alluring curve, full and full. "That's right, if today Du Xiaofu looked at the purple flame demon Phoenix, hesitating. Subsequently, he said seriously, "Take good care of little Xingxing in the future." The purple flame demon Phoenix did not speak. After a while, she turned around, her purple eyes glancing at Du Xiaofu, and said, "I am Zixian." Zixian. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. The purple flame demon Phoenix had not said anything the last time he had asked her. However, from how Huang Linger had addressed her as elder sister Zixian, it was not difficult for Du Xiaofu to guess who she was. "Members of the great Golden Wing Pink clan have arrived." Suddenly, Zixian looked towards the side of the mountain, her beautiful brows furrowed at this moment. Du Xiaofu's gaze immediately shifted to the side. From the side of the sky, figures wrapped in golden light were flying through the air. A total of 10 figures instantly appeared in the sky. They were a dozen or so young men and women, and every single one of them was extraordinary and fierce. Their figures were ramrod straight, and their eyes were suffused with golden light. The dozen or so figures had yet to land, but their gazes were already sweeping over Du Xiaofu, little Xingxing, and Zixian. Boom! Strands of overbearing and powerful auras effused out from the bodies of those young men and women. All of them were peerlessly powerful, and they faintly distorted the space above them. Du Xiaofu raised his head slightly and looked at the dozen people in the void. They were the younger generation of the golden-winged great rocks. but they were not the young men and women who had accompanied Giallo Kaling yesterday. However, the vigorous aura emanating from the bodies of the young men and women was stronger than the average of the men and women brought by Giallo Kaling. Du Xiaofu could not help but sigh at the fact that they were indeed worthy of the bloodline of the Golden-Winged Rock clan. How many races in this world could obtain this kind of abnormal talent? As his gaze swept across the dozen or so young men and women, Du Xiaofu finally fixed his gaze on a young man who was leading the pack. That young man was tall and straight, and his eyes were fluctuating with golden light. He wore a golden battle suit, and his tall and straight figure had an explosive feeling of power. Nirvana Marshal Honorable! Looking at the young man in the golden battle suit, Du Xiaofu squinted his eyes. Judging from the invisible aura, he had stepped into the Nirvana Marshal Honorable realm. Swoosh swoosh, as the aura descended, it was forceful and overbearing. Suddenly, a dozen or so figures flew out from the courtyard at the mountainside. In a flash, they landed beside Du Xiaofu. They were Gui Che, Godly Ape King, Guqing Demon, Spiritual Tiger King, and the others. When their gazes fell on the dozen or so young men and women from the golden-winged great rocks, Guqing Demon, Godly Ape King, and the others' gazes suddenly trembled. Among you, there is a human who has touched the secret bone of the golden-winged great rocks and the golden-winged great rocks. Step forward. In the sky, an arrogant young man swept his gaze across Fantasy Tiger King, Ghost Chariot, Guqing Demon, and the others. In the end, his gaze landed on Guqing Demon. He sensed that Guqing Demon's aura was not that of a beast. Guqing Demon felt the arrogant young man's gaze, and his eyes twitched slightly. What will come will still come. Du Xiaofu put down little Xingxing in his arms and gently patted his little shoulder, indicating that he should not act rashly. He took a step forward and looked at the dozen or so young men and women. With a calm expression, he said softly, "It's me." As Du Xiaofu's voice fell, the golden eyes in the sky immediately stared at Du Xiaofu. Their gazes were filled with surprise and curiosity. The arrogant young man who spoke just now looked at Du Xiaofu for a while and said in an arrogant tone, "Is it you? I heard that you helped our clan yesterday. Since you helped us a little, we will spare your lowly life. Then, dig out the secret bone and hand over the golden-winged great rocks. It's not just a little. Without our help, I'm afraid you won't be able to defeat the dragons. You want to dig out the secret bone? The golden-winged great rocks are really ruthless. You don't even recognize us." Spiritual Tiger King, Godly Ape King, Fire Dragon King, Silver Blood Leopard King, Violent Bear King, and the others immediately became restless. Their eyes were filled with indignation. Yesterday, Giallo Kaling had said that she would protect them, but now, she had changed her mind. In response to the arrogant young man's words, Du Xiaofu's expression didn't change much. He asked, "Is this the decision of the golden-winged great rocks?" Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the dozen young men and women were secretly moved. They then looked at each other. The leading young man, who was dressed in golden armor, hadn't said a word. At this moment, the expression in his eyes changed slightly. The arrogant young man was stunned. Then, he stared at Du Xiaofu with a frightening and sharp gaze. With some disdain and arrogance, he said, "We can make the decision for such a small matter. Puny humans don't deserve the secret bone and the golden-winged great rocks. Dig out the secret bone yourself. Otherwise, you will suffer." Hearing the arrogant young man's words, Du Xiaofu understood a little. He was afraid that these people weren't sent by Giallo Kaling. They were just here to cause trouble. Du Xiaofu secretly took a deep breath and let out a long breath. He looked at the arrogant young man and smiled faintly. "With your cultivation and strength, I'm afraid you can't make any decisions in the golden-winged great rocks. Go back." Hearing Du Xiaofu's words and looking at the faint smile on his face, the dozen golden-winged great rocks were surprised. They were very puzzled. They didn't expect the human to be able to smile at this moment. "Boy, what do you mean?" The arrogant young man was also very puzzled. However, from the young man's tone, he could tell that the human didn't care much about them. This was what made him even more puzzled. The corners of Du Xiaofu's mouth curled up into a smile. His body faced the rising sun as he looked at the arrogant youth. Suddenly, a domineering chill gushed out from his resolute and determined face. His voice changed as he said in a deep voice, "Don't you understand? I told you to scram!" At this moment, everyone finally heard it clearly and understood what it meant. Suddenly, everyone's faces changed. Spiritual Fantasy Tiger King, Divine Ape King, Little Falcon, and the others were stunned. The dozen golden-winged great rocks were also stunned. They thought they had heard wrongly. In the worldview of the dozen young men and women, no one dared to speak to the golden-winged great rocks in such a way. Moreover, it was only a puny human. Only Little Star didn't change his expression at all. It wasn't strange at all. It was natural. "Boy, you're courting death!" The arrogant young man finally couldn't help but explode. He stomped his foot in the air and golden light gushed out from the soles of his feet. He immediately dove towards Du Xiaofu. A golden light flashed in Du Xiaofu's eyes as the arrogant youth pounced towards him. With a sweep of his purple robe sleeve, he lightly flicked his finger. A bright golden fingerprint directly swept through the air, bringing with it a swift and fierce wind as it shot out like a bolt of lightning. Humph! Feeling the resplendent fingerprint shoot through the air, the arrogant young man couldn't help but pause. Golden light wrapped around his palm as he grabbed the resplendent fingerprint in a domineering manner. He wanted to forcefully resist it as a show of unwarranted disdain. He didn't take the puny human seriously at all. Chi-La, however, just as the arrogant young man's palm grabbed the golden fingerprint, a purple gold lightning suddenly burst out from the fingerprint and shot towards the arrogant young man's palm. The lightning was terrifying. It destroyed the golden light in the arrogant young man's palm, causing sparks to appear. Then, his palm was charred black and the smell of burnt meat filled the air. A sharp pain came from his palm as if his palm was about to be pierced through. The arrogant young man's expression changed drastically. However, he wasn't an ordinary person and had the terrifying physical body of the golden-winged rock clan. Therefore, he clenched his teeth and endured the pain. However, his arrogant expression instantly turned gloomy and humiliated. "Boy, you're dead meat." The arrogant young man was enraged. His move was actually blocked and injured. He roared angrily and golden light burst out from his other hand. He directly slapped towards Du Xiaofu. Boom! In an instant, golden talisman runes swept out and formed an arc-shaped golden space dent around his palm. A domineering and ferocious aura suddenly swept out from the arrogant young man's body, causing the space to tremble. This was the golden-winged rock clan's sky-shaking wings. At this moment, the arrogant young man no longer held back when he attacked Du Xiaofu. Boom! However, before the arrogant young man's sky-shaking wings could reach Du Xiaofu, an afterimage suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. It was as fleeting as a god, as fast as lightning, and as powerful as thunder. A similar sky-shaking wings swept across his body. Bang, bang, bang! In an instant, the arrogant young man's body directly fell from the void. With a shocking sight like a meteorite, he directly fell into a mountain below, causing the entire mountain to crack. Huge rocks exploded, and an aura swept out in all directions. The rumbling echoes in the sky were endless. Poochie, the arrogant young man, was stuck upside down in the rubble. He spat out pale golden blood from his mouth. He was already at his last breath and couldn't move at all. He was probably half dead. With just a single move, he was able to give the arrogant young man a taste of his own medicine and severely injure him. Immediately, the dozen or so golden-winged rock clan's youths were all dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with disbelief and shock. The arrogant young man had recently stepped into the level of primordial beast venerable. His cultivation and strength were only second to the commander's. Among the younger generation of the golden-winged rock clan, he was enough to rank in the top 10. But now, the arrogant young man was actually trampled and seriously injured in one move. Furthermore, he was seriously injured by a human using the sky-shaking wings. How shocking was this to the golden-winged rock clan? Chapter 13-15. None of this was surprising to Guqin Demon, Ape Divine King, Little Ying, Wild Bear King, Spiritual Tiger King, and the others. Even Dragon 7 and Dragon 8, who were at the peak of the primordial origin beast sovereign level, were no match for the Demon King. Judging from his aura, the arrogant youth had just become a primordial origin martial sovereign. How could he be a match for the Demon King? Golden light surged from the eyes of the leading youth in golden battle robes. The aura on his body surged, causing the golden battle robes on his body to tremble. As the aura on the leading youth fluctuated, the eyes of the dozen or so young men and women from the golden-winged Great Rock clan moved. Their auras fluctuated. Without any hesitation, they sealed off Du Xiaofu with their auras. Boom! At the same time, the auras of Little Star, Ghost Chariot, Spiritual Tiger King, Ape Divine King, and the others also surged. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the surrounding void became tense and hostile. You overestimate yourself. I'll spare your life this time. Next time, I won't be so lenient. As the main character, Du Xiaofu did not care at all. He slowly retracted his gaze from the half-dead arrogant youth at the foot of the mountain. When these words fell into the ears of the young men and women from the golden-winged Great Rock clan, their expressions became complicated. He had severely injured the youth with one move, and the human youth still said that he had been lenient. This domineering aura was not inferior to that of the golden-winged Great Rock clan. Kid, remember me, Jialo Juyu. This is the last name you know in this world. The leading youth in golden battle robes, Jialo Juyu, stared straight at Du Xiaofu. In his golden eyes, coldness surged from the depths of his eyes. However, his aura was still extraordinary and outstanding. You didn't do anything when you saw your follower being tortured. As a master, you're really not much. Don't worry, you'll end up the same way. Du Xiaofu's face darkened slightly. He stared straight at Jialo Juyu, and the coldness in his eyes clashed. The consequence of provoking me is that you will die even more miserably. Jialo Ju stared at Du Xiaofu. Golden light began to surge out from his golden armor, enveloping his body. His voice was cold, and his temperament became domineering and majestic. A tyrannical aura lingered around him. The golden-winged Great Rocks would not tolerate any provocation or disrespect. Du Xiaofu's expression was calm as he stood in the air. His purple robe fluttered in the wind as he calmly said, I have no intention of provoking you. I'm just speaking the truth. Right now, you are also provoking me. You don't know death? Do you think you won't die? Jialo Juyu moved. With a wave of his hand, golden runes gushed out. A fierce claw print filled with runes like the sun, as if it could compete with the rising sun behind him. Chi-La! Jialo Juyu's claw mark distorted the space, faintly revealing 5 faintly discernible pitch-black spatial cracks, which instantly spread in front of Du Xiaofu. As Jialo Juyu's claw stretched out, Gui Che, Guqin Demon, 8 God, and the others on the mountain peak were all shocked. They could not help but feel a huge domineering pressure. Within that claw mark, there was a surge of Nirvana Realm aura. Jialo Juyu actually used his Nirvana Realm cultivation without holding back as soon as he made his move. However, Gui Che, 8 God, and the others were not surprised. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu, had crippled a venerable origin beast in one move. Jialo Juyu naturally would not be careless. If I don't want to die, who dares to kill me? With a loud roar, Du Xiaofu moved. His fist, wrapped in golden light, did not retreat. Instead, he advanced and directly intercepted Jialo Juyu's punch. Boom! The two collided, and suddenly, a deep sonic boom shook the void in all directions. The golden light fist directly shattered Jialo Juyu's claw in the void, causing Jialo Juyu's figure to stagger back 3 steps and cross dozens of feet. Dang dang! Du Xiaofu's body only took 2 steps back and crossed dozens of feet. With a sweep of his purple robe sleeve, his body stabilized in the void. His purple robe and black hair fluttered behind him. Du Xiaofu's eyes surged with golden light, like a golden waterfall. That domineering aura was exactly the same as that of the golden-winged Great Rock. Indeed, it's exactly the same as my golden-winged Great Rock clan. Feeling the aura of the golden-winged Great Rock that permeated from Du Xiaofu's body, The dozen or so young men and women of the golden-winged Great Rock clan were surprised. They had also heard from the people who returned from the clan that the human who possessed the bones of the golden-winged Great Rock was very special. He could cultivate the cultivation method of the golden-winged Great Rock clan, and his aura was exactly the same. It was almost impossible for outsiders to distinguish. "He's actually so strong!" At this moment, these dozen or so young men and women were even more shocked by Du Xiaofu's move that blocked Jialo Jiyu. Jialo Jiyu stabilized his body. When he looked at Du Xiaofu again, his eyes were as golden as the sea. His expression was no longer careless as he stared at him with rapt attention. "That's all you got? The Golden-Winged Great Rock clan doesn't live up to its name. Use your full strength to fight." Looking at Jialo Jiyu, Du Xiaofu's gaze was contemptuous. Since he had encountered trouble today, he might as well open up his nature and compete with the real Golden-Winged Great Rock. As the fourth commander of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan, Jialo Jiyu had already stepped into the Nirvana realm. It was enough for him to be at the peak of his generation in this world. If he walked out of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan, Jialo Jiyu would be able to dominate Kyushu and cross the Beast region. But the human in front of him today didn't put him in his eyes at all. One could imagine how Jialo Jiyu felt. The dominance and nobility contained in the Golden-Winged Great Rock's bloodline couldn't be endured silently. "You have some ability. I have indeed underestimated you. But now, you no longer have the ability to be arrogant." Taking a deep breath, Jialo Jiyu stabilized his mind and wasn't angered by Du Xiaofu's provocation. Just this kind of temperament was already a rare existence. "I said you're not enough." Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. There was a hint of contempt in his overbearing manner. "Chi!" Jialo Jiyu attacked again. His figure was like a bolt of golden lightning as he instantly pounced towards Du Xiaofu. At this moment, Jialo Jiyu's speed was unimaginably fast. The speed of a real golden-winged great rock was rare in this world. In terms of speed, it was enough to be called supreme. Since ancient times, there had been rumors that the ancestors of the golden-winged great rock clan could fly up to 90,000 miles in a single wing. How terrifying was that speed! Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, Jialo Jiyu appeared in front of Du Xiaofu, bursting with golden light. With a wave of his hand, with a peerless dominance, a golden fingerprint pointed at Du Xiaofu's forehead. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Using the wave-like carefree steps, his figure strangely disappeared in front of the fingerprint. Boom! At the same time, Du Xiaofu appeared beside Jialo Jiyu like a ghost. A golden palm print flew across the sky and hit Jialo Jiyu's back. Whoosh! Golden light surged in Jialo Jiyu's eyes. It was as if there were eyes on his back. With an unbelievable angle and speed, he directly avoided Du Xiaofu's palm. Du Xiaofu's palm print brushed past Jialo Jiyu's body. The palm print rotated. With a shake of his wrist, he clenched his 5 fingers and condensed them into a fist. He turned 180 degrees and blasted towards Jialo Jiyu's chest. Jialo Jiyu seemed to be prepared at this moment. A fist print wrapped in bright golden light met the collision in an instant. Boom! The two collided. The space was turbulent, golden light burst out, and turbulent energy surged out. The changes in the moves of the two were as fast as lightning, fierce and domineering. They were completed in an instant, dazzling the eyes of the people watching. A terrifying aura erupted, and the two separated upon contact. But in an instant, the two tall figures once again clashed with each other. In an instant, the battle was fierce and boiling. Rumble! Above the void, the muffled sound of energy suddenly reverberated. In the sky, the purple-robed youth and the golden-robed youth, even shrouded in a golden halo, were locked in a fierce battle. Above the void, the energy swept over with earth-shattering momentum. At this moment, the surrounding dozen young men and women of the Golden-Winged Rock clan were more and more shocked. That human youth actually blocked the fourth commander, and blocked with the power of the Golden-Winged Rock clan. What kind of power and inconceivable was this? It didn't make sense. How could a human have such domineering power to resist the supreme beast power of the Golden-Winged Rock clan? The ghost chariot, violent bear king, and the others were shaken. What they saw was the demon king shrouded in golden light, and there seemed to be several types of supreme might. He directly resisted the Giallo Absolute Nether, who was at the level of a Nirvana beast venerable, and even suppressed him. How tyrannical was that? Zixian held little Xingxing's little hand and looked at the battle above. Her purple eyes didn't fluctuate much, and she didn't show much worry. Whoosh! Golden light flickered, and Jialo Juyu's handprint condensed. The golden light was like a sun, and then condensed into a golden-winged rock phantom. It was hundreds of feet large, and it swept towards Du Xiaofu with a momentum that could destroy everything. Under that pressure, the surrounding space rippled and cracked. Domineering Fist Way! Du Xiaofu shook his arm and activated the tyrannical Fist Way. The golden fist was like a blooming sun. An incomparably tyrannical aura suddenly spread out from his tall and straight body, colliding with the gigantic golden-winged rock illusion that was several hundred feet in size. Aoo! Vaguely, a dragon's roar and a divine elephant's cry could be heard. The void shook, and lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. The aura was domineering, and it looked down on all things. Boom! Under the trembling gazes of the surroundings, the fist and the gigantic golden-winged rock phantom suddenly collided. The surrounding space suddenly cracked and exploded from the point of collision. The terrifying energy turned into rune ripples, and like a tsunami, it suddenly swept across the void. Rumble! The space shook violently. The invisible domineering aura shook the space, and the space rippled endlessly. Between heaven and earth, it suddenly seemed like endless thunder. Bang, bang, bang! The rocks on the huge mountain peaks below exploded into powder, and the towering trees were broken. The cracks on the ground spread, and the earth revealed a gully. Such a collision made the surrounding eyes filled with fear. When everything calmed down, the surroundings were a mess. The two tall figures in the sky stood far away, and it seemed that they were still on par. Activate your true body, or you're still far from it. Du Xiaofu looked at Jialo Juyu, and said with contempt. However, in Du Xiaofu's heart, he did not underestimate it at this moment. The Jialo Juyu of the Nirvana Beast Venerate was definitely not easy to deal with. Faintly, there was a strange power on its body that was constantly affecting him. Du Xiaofu guessed that it should be the power of Nirvana. The Nirvana stage Jialo Juyu suppressed him in terms of cultivation, and he relied on his vigorous profound qi to fight against it. If this went on for a long time, the one who would suffer would naturally be him, and the one who would be exhausted first would also be him. Chapter 13:16. At this moment, Jialo Juyu was in the true form of the golden-winged Great Pink Clan. Du Xiaofu could not help but be shocked. He had not gained the upper hand in the tyrannical fist way. His opponent was only in human form and had been contending with his physical body. Swoosh, swoosh! The shocking battle in the sky immediately attracted quite a number of figures from the surrounding space. Soon after, quite a number of figures appeared in the nearby space. What's going on? Who's fighting? It seems to be the fourth commander. It's Jialo Juyu. Who is that purple-robed youth? Why does he have the aura of my clan? Could it be that human? Looking at the battle in front, strange discussions could be heard from all around. Jialo Juyu's golden eyes looked at Du Xiaofu. Those golden eyes suddenly closed, and a terrifying chill suddenly swept across the sky from the body of the golden battle suit. Boom! In an instant, Jialo Juyu's eyes opened. The golden light that had just surged in his eyes now seemed to have a golden-winged great pink bird that was about to fly out. The Nirvana Sovereign Beast aura on his body also climbed to the peak without reservation. Voila! Golden runes erupted, and Jialo Juyu's body began to expand, instantly activating the huge golden-winged great pink bird's true form. Monstrous energy instantly burst out from the huge body of the main body. Waves of extremely terrifying energy storms swept out in all directions in an overbearing manner. The golden-winged great pink bird's true form was filled with supreme power. The golden brilliance was dazzling, like a golden sun in the sky. The void trembled violently, as if it was resonating with heaven and earth. Boom! Du Xiaofu raised his head. As the golden light fluctuated, the great pink bird's wings on his back immediately expanded to dozens of feet. The dazzling golden light was like a golden torrent hanging in the sky, carrying an incomparably domineering aura. This was the true great pink bird's golden wings, covered in layers of golden feathers. The feathers were densely covered with runes, revealing a profound mystery. There was an invisible domineering aura spreading out. When the great pink bird's wings on Du Xiaofu's back were activated, the pressure caused the hearts of the golden-winged great pink bird clan to tremble, and their blood boiled. That's the true great pink bird's bloodline powerhouse from far away, above us. That guy is a human. How can he integrate the great pink bird's wings like it's natural? Incredible! Everyone exclaimed, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. In front of the true great pink bird clan, great Jialo Juyi's true form pink bird. Jialo Juyu's main body shouted loudly, and his huge main body pounced towards Du Xiaofu. His entire body was shining with golden light, and his ferocious aura spread out, causing people to tremble in fear. Great Peng Claw. Ping bird claw great Peng. Ping you. And Ping great form bird great Peng. Great ping bird. Ping. Great Peng. Ji Ping claw. Wings was on. Ping great ping birds. Great ping. Peina. Peng. Was. Rock's chaos crushing claw. Du Xiaofu shouted out like a peerless ferocious beast. At the instant the wings on his back flapped, his right arm shook, and his fingers curled slightly before a claw stretched out from his hand. Dazzling talisman markings raged like golden lightning, and it was as if a golden-winged rock was about to flap its wings and soar into the 9 heavens. Such a domineering and terrifying aura erupted, instantly attracting the attention of many in the surroundings. This was also the true great rock's chaos-shattering claw. At this moment, the two great rock's chaos-crushing claws collided. Du Xiaofu wanted to compete with the real golden-winged great Ping. Ka. The two claw prints collided, one big and one small, but their power was equally terrifying and domineering. The moment they collided, it was as if the sun was released above the void, causing the heaven and earth to tremble. Such a collision caused the surrounding gazes to tremble violently, but it seemed that the two of them were equally matched. Rock descends to the 9 heavens. Jialo Ju shouted in a deep voice. A mysterious power seemed to erupt from his body that was shining with golden light, urging the rock descends to the 9 heavens. With the strength of his huge body, he wanted to suppress Du Xiaofu and crush that insignificant human to death. Rock descends to the 9 heavens, I know it too. The golden wings on his back flapped, and Du Xiaofu also activated the rock descends to the 9 heavens. It was as if a real golden-winged great Ping had descended, carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged great Ping clan. It directly confronted and swept out. This was a confrontation between two similar supreme beasts, and it was also like two golden-winged great Ping birds. It was as if thunder was rumbling in the air, and a series of talisman markings burst forth. Rumble. Resplendent golden talisman markings shot out like golden fireworks, causing the entire sky to be resplendent. At this moment, the two of them were fighting, and their domineering and terrifying auras were overflowing. They flapped their wings and swept across the vast sky, as if they were the only ones in the world, crushing everything. It's too scary. In the surrounding sky, the Phantom Tiger King, the Ghost Chariot, the Ape God King, and the others were all under great pressure, and they almost wanted to crawl and tremble. That was the supreme aura of a golden-winged great Ping bird, and no other beast could resist it. At this moment, even the disciples of the golden-winged great Ping bird clan were shocked. All the disciples of the golden-winged great Ping bird clan could feel the aura of the purple-robed human youth. It was as if a real golden-winged great Ping bird had descended, and he was also activating the real rock descends to the 9 heavens. For a moment, no one could do anything about the confrontation in the sky, and it was a stalemate in the air. I've already stepped into the Nirvana realm, and you're at the origin world. You can't suppress me. Jialo Ju shouted. That supreme beast could suppress the vast sky, and its golden eyes looked directly at Du Xiaofu as if it was looking down on the world, wanting to suppress Du Xiaofu. Is that so? But I have everything you have, and you don't have what I have, Du Xiaofu called out. As soon as he said that, the surrounding space began to tremble. The energy of the world and the surroundings began to gather towards him. Whoosh! The great pink golden wings on his back flapped, and Du Xiaofu's body suddenly rose. Behind him, there were suddenly dazzling golden talisman runes flashing. At this moment, Jialo Juyu's huge golden eyes that looked down on the world trembled as if it had sensed something. There was also a trace of fluctuation in its golden eyes. Boom! And at the next moment, under the astonished gaze of all around, an illusory golden five-fingered mountain spread out behind Du Xiaofu, who was soaring in the sky. The illusory golden five-fingered mountain was born and evolved behind Du Xiaofu, as if it had been given life. Buzz buzz! The illusory golden five-fingered mountain was filled with golden light, and its sound was like the sound of wind and thunder. Dense spiritual energy spread out, communicating with the energy of heaven and earth, and a terrifying power spread out. Suppress! Du Xiaofu shouted like thunder, and the illusory golden five-fingered mountain fell on Jialo Juyu's back. Boom! Facing the huge body of Jialo Juyu, the illusory golden five-fingered mountain expanded as if it was real, and the pressure was rolling. Gee! At this moment, Jialo Juyu's eyes trembled, and its screech pierced through the clouds and cracked stones. Its fierce power was rolling, and it wanted to overturn the illusory five-fingered mountain. The illusory golden five-fingered mountain, with the momentum of a king, was constantly evolving, and could not be provoked. The illusory five-fingered mountain was also constantly expanding, and in the end, it was thousands of feet in size. It was like a supreme being, and its pressure was surging, as if it could crush all things, suppress all things in the world, and continuously suppress Jialo Juyu. That human is an earth-vein spirit! But ordinary earth-vein spirits can't suppress my great pink bird bloodline! At this moment, the eyes of many great pink bird disciples suddenly fluctuated with golden light, and their bodies couldn't help but tremble. Boom! Du Xiaofu's figure appeared on top of the illusory five-fingered mountain. His feet stepped on the peak of the mountain, and the great pink bird's golden wings spread behind him, and he was still urging ping descends to the 9 heavens. Bang, 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 bang! At this moment, under the dual suppression of Du Xiaofu's ping descends to the 9 heavens and the earth-vein spirit, the sky was filled with golden talisman runes, and the surrounding illusory figures exploded one after another. In the void, the wind and clouds surged, and the sky changed color. There was a faint phenomenon that appeared, and it was terrifying to the extreme. At this moment, this kind of aura swept out, causing the blood of the surrounding beasts and great ping bird disciples to coagulate, and they found it difficult to breathe. Jialo Juyu finally couldn't resist, and its huge body was suppressed one after another, and its golden eyes surged with unwillingness. However, the aura on Jialo Juyu's body became weaker and weaker, and then its huge body was forcibly suppressed to the ground below, directly destroying a mountain from the peak, and crumbling inch by inch. Rumble. The earth shook and the mountains shook as if there was an earthquake. The shock was incomparable. Du Xiaofu's hand seals condensed, and the golden talisman runes on the 5-finger mountain's vein spirit rushed out, enveloping Jialo Juyu from all directions, releasing strands of auspicious light, completely suppressing Jialo Juyu. Puff puff. Jialo Juyu's mouth continuously spat out large mouthfuls of golden rock blood, and it became weaker and weaker. In the end, it could no longer struggle. Du Xiaofu stepped onto the peak of the 5-finger mountain's vein spirit, and the golden wings on his back spread out. The golden light in his eyes was like a golden rainbow piercing through the sun, shooting into the heavens. He raised his head and shouted like thunder, "If I don't want to die, who dares to kill me?" This voice rolled out, as if it contained a domineering aura. When the sound waves swept out, the world in all directions began to riot, emitting a mysterious fluctuation. Under the pressure of that aura, many of the surrounding beasts and Great Ping Bird clan disciples almost trembled and knelt down. They were all extremely shocked. At this moment, everyone looked up at that tall and straight figure, all of them dumbstruck. The surrounding disciples of the golden-winged great rocks were also dumbfounded. They were completely shocked. At this moment, that purple-robed youth was extremely domineering. Compared to the Great Ping Bird, he was even more of a Great Ping Bird. Quick, join forces to capture that brat. Finally, amidst the dumbstruck shock, a middle-aged man from the Great Ping Bird clan came back to his senses and shouted loudly. His eyes were sharp and surged with a golden brilliance. His voice was not loud, but when it landed in the ears of the surrounding people, it was like a clap of thunder. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The Great Ping Bird clan disciples that had gathered in the surroundings, as well as the dozen or so young men and women from the Great Ping Bird clan that were originally present, were instantly awakened. As his gaze changed, a golden-winged Great Rock clan disciple instantly moved and surrounded Du Xiaofu's enormous mountain-veined soul without hesitation. Boom! Waves of vigorous auras surged fiercely and domineeringly, wanting to join forces to capture Du Xiaofu. On the mountain peak where Ghost Chariot, Zither Demon, Divine Ape King, and the others were, for some reason, Zi Xian, who was holding Lil Xingxing's little hand, bit her red lips. Her originally calm purple eyes also surged with a brilliant light at this moment, and a blazing aura spread out from her curvaceous and alluring body. Stop, all of you stop! At this moment, a clear and moving voice came from afar. When the last word fell, a graceful and tall figure crossed the space and swept over. Chapter 13-17. The tall and graceful figure with a peerless appearance was Jialo Kaling, who had brought Du Xiaofu and the others into the great golden-winged rock clan. Looking around, Jialo Kaling's eyes couldn't help but tremble when she saw Du Xiaofu suppressing Jialo Juyu with a five-fingered mountain-veined soul. Jialo Kaling could feel that the five-fingered mountain-veined soul on Du Xiaofu's body was extraordinary. It was definitely not an ordinary veined soul. What shocked Jialo Kaling even more was that this time, Du Xiaofu didn't suppress Jialo Juyu with the fusion of his martial vein and the great golden-winged rock supreme beast ability. Instead, he used the veined soul and the great golden-winged rock supreme beast ability to descend the 9 heavens to completely suppress Jialo Juyu. Kaling, you brought this person back. He is impudent in our clan. We cannot let him off easily. The middle-aged man who had just spoken said to Jialo Kaling when he saw her coming. However, from his expression, it seemed that he didn't dare to be arrogant in front of Jialo Kaling. Jialo Kaling's gaze swept across the entire place. She already had a rough idea of what had happened. Jialo Kaling more or less knew about the Demon King Du Xiaofu's temper. She knew that Jialo Juyu and the others had come to find trouble. In the end, they had been ruthlessly beaten up in a situation where they didn't know what was good for them. Greetings, Great Commander! Following Jialo Kaling's arrival, the surrounding young disciples of the great golden-winged rock clan immediately bowed respectfully. All of them became solemn and respectful. It was enough to show that Jialo Kaling's position in the clan was extraordinary. Fifth Protector, I brought them back, so they are under my watch. The ones I want to cause trouble are definitely not them, right? Jialo Kaling looked at the middle-aged man and asked in a clear voice. Jialo Juyu came without my permission. If anything happens, he will be punished according to the clan's rules. Hearing that, the faces of the dozen or so young men and women who came with Jialo Juyu instantly changed greatly. They knew the temper of the great commander. It was absolutely extraordinary. The middle-aged man was stunned. His expression was a little unnatural. However, he seemed to be worried about something and did not dare to show it. He must have guessed what had happened. After being stunned for a while, he said, Kailing, it's just a human. Juyu and the others came to take a look because they were concerned about the secret bones of their clan. They also came for the sake of our great golden-winged Ping clan. I was the one who brought him back. Do I need Jialo Ju cult to do anything? Gazing at the middle-aged fifth protector, Jialo Kaling raised her eyebrows slightly and said with a frown, Or do I need Fifth Protector's advice when doing things? The Fifth Protector's expression became increasingly embarrassed. He waved his hand as his expression sank in displeasure. He said, "You are the first commander. There is naturally no need for others to teach you about your matters. However, I will report this matter to the elders. The elders will naturally make a decision. Fifth Protector, you worry too much. I am here on the orders of the fourth elder." Jialo Kaling did not pay any more attention to the Fifth Protector. Looking at Du Xiaofu in the distance, a complicated fluctuation flashed in her eyes. She said, "Come with me. The elders want to see you." Hearing Jialo Kaling's words, the Fifth Protector frowned. His figure then quietly leaped away. Above the mountain pulse soul, Du Xiaofu looked at Jialo Kaling. The golden ping wings and the five-fingered mountain pulse soul phantasm behind his back slowly retracted. His figure leaped across the sky. In a flash, he was beside Jialo Kaling. His face was a little pale. "This is the territory of the great Golden Wing Ping clan. You don't know what will happen. It will not be good for you to take action. It will cause a lot of trouble." Jialo Kaling glanced at the miserable young man and Jialo Juyu's body below. Looking at Du Xiaofu, her eyebrows were tightly knitted together. "I can't just wait for death. If trouble comes knocking, I can't avoid it. I can only accept it." Du Xiaofu shrugged his shoulders. On his pale face, his eyes regained their clarity. Looking at Jialo Kaling, he asked, "Is there an answer to my question?" "Not yet. The elders have different opinions. However, it doesn't seem to be a good thing for you. I will tell you on the way." Jialo Kaling did not hide it from Du Xiaofu. From yesterday until today, the elders had already discussed it twice. There were two opinions. However, both opinions were not good for the human in front of her. "Let's go." Du Xiaofu smiled calmly. Since he had to face it, there was no way to hide. He might as well be calm. "I will do my best to plead for you. You were brought back by me. I will take responsibility for you," Jialo Kaling said to Du Xiaofu. "You didn't do anything to me. You don't have to take responsibility." Du Xiaofu looked at the tall and beautiful woman in front of him and smiled. When Jialo Kaling heard what Du Xiaofu said, she didn't seem to notice anything wrong at first. However, after a while, she felt that there was something wrong with what Du Xiaofu had said. Her golden eyes glared fiercely at Du Xiaofu as she said, "If you continue to be so glib, I don't mind teaching you a lesson before bringing you to see the elders." "How did I provoke you again?" Du Xiaofu smacked his lips and looked at Jialo Kaling with a wronged gaze. He didn't know how he had provoked this hot and irritable woman. "Follow me!" Jialo Kaling didn't pay any more attention to Du Xiaofu. She took a step forward with her long and slender legs, and her graceful figure turned around and left. A crisp voice resounded in the air. "Whoever dares to have an opinion about the guest I brought back will bear the consequences." As her voice echoed, the surrounding disciples of the golden-winged Great Rock clan secretly changed their expressions. Great Commander Jialo Kaling was clearly warning them. "Human clan, beast clan, demon clan. As long as it's a woman, it seems that all of them are unreasonable." Du Xiaofu looked at Zixian, who was on the mountain peak below. Then, he looked at Jialo Kaling's back and sighed slightly. Golden light flashed under his feet, and his figure drifted like a deity. He immediately followed behind her and left. Glib, flirtatious, fickle. On the mountain peak, Zixian looked at Du Xiaofu's back and glanced at him with disdain. There seemed to be some imperceptible fluctuations in her eyes. "Mother, glib, flirtatious, fickle, what is fickle?" Little Xingxing held Zixian's hand and asked seriously with his big eyes. "Just like your father. He keeps flirting with women around him. He is fickle." Zixian curled her lips and said, "Mother, I understand now." Little Xingxing suddenly understood and said happily, "Fickle, fickle, so it means that you are very popular, right?" Hearing this, Zixian was stunned. Looking at Little Xingxing's clear eyes, she could only nod and say, "That's about it." Pfft. On the mountain peak, Guqin Demon, Fantasy Tiger King, Little Falcon, and the others almost couldn't help but burst out laughing. However, looking at Zixien, they didn't dare to laugh. Gui Che, who had always been serious, had a bloody and fierce temperament on his body at this moment. However, a smile also appeared on his handsome and sharp face. In the distant sky, the mountain peak was like a cloud. It was surrounded by towering trees, and the surroundings were lush and green. However, it was late autumn, and there were also withered and yellow leaves. On a towering tree, among the withered and yellow leaves, a stumbling old lady stood quietly on a withered and yellow leaf. Looking into the distance, a smile appeared on her wrinkled old face. She murmured softly, "Silly boy, you did not disgrace the bones and bloodline of the golden-winged Great Rock clan." As her voice fell, the old lady's figure quietly disappeared. It was as if she had instantly blended into the air. It was unbelievably strange. As the old lady disappeared, a withered and yellow leaf under her feet began to fall, swaying gently with the wind. Whoosh whoosh! In midair, two golden figures appeared. It was Du Xiaofu and Jialo Keiling. Along the way, Du Xiaofu learned about the general situation of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan from Jialo Keiling. Among the elders of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan, there were currently two factions on how to deal with Du Xiaofu. One of the elders felt that as a human, Du Xiaofu definitely couldn't touch the bones and golden wings of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan. Seeing that he had helped the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan, they didn't take the initiative to attack the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan for benefits. Therefore, they dug out the bones and asked Du Xiaofu to hand over the golden wings of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan and tried to keep him alive. For the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan, this was the ultimate punishment. The dignity of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan couldn't be challenged. Chapter 13-18. In the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan, there was another elder who believed that Du Xiaofu had helped the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan and had not deliberately taken the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan's mystic bone. The Golden-Winged Great Rock clan's golden wings was also obtained by chance. He was also very talented. He had killed the dragon's Dragon 9 and defeated the dragon's Dragon 7 and Dragon 8. He could be made the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan's battle servant forever. If he was unwilling, it would not be too late to make him hand over the mystic bone and the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan's golden wings. Although the other elders did not quite agree with the opinion of this elder, they seemed to have compromised in the end. If they could make him the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan's battle servant, it would indeed be a good thing. Du Xiaofu's expression was extremely gloomy when he heard the decision of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan's elders from Jialo Keiling. Ancient buildings stood tall, mottled with traces left behind by the erosion of time. Surrounding them was a square paved with thick bluestone. Du Xiaofu slowly descended with Jialo Keiling in front of a majestic and huge palace. Jialo Keiling looked at Du Xiaofu and said softly, "Don't be too nervous. I will try my best to plead for you. Hopefully, there will be a turn for the better. Can you do me a favor, even if it's because I helped you in the past?" Du Xiaofu suddenly looked up at Jialo Keiling and asked. "Say it. I will do my best to help you if I can." Jialo Keiling nodded. "If I can't walk out of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan, I will take responsibility for what I did. Help me send everyone I brought with me out. This matter has nothing to do with them," Du Xiaofu said. Jialo Keiling looked at Du Xiaofu and did not say anything. She originally thought that this human would beg her to plead for him at this time. She did not expect that this human would not mention her at all. At this time, he was still concerned about the people around him. "All right, I promise you. I will definitely do it." After a while, Jialo Keiling Great Ro Keiling nodded at Du Xiaofu. "Thanks." Du Xiaofu smiled. He knew that Jialo Keiling would definitely do what she promised. Otherwise, she wouldn't have agreed so easily. After that, Du Xiaofu stared at the entrance of the Great Hall. There was a terrifying aura inside that seemed to be able to freeze space. It was connected to the aura of the Golden-Winged Rock race. There were probably many terrifying experts inside. They should be the elders of the Golden-Winged Rock race. "I wonder how powerful the elders of the Golden-Winged Great Rocks are," As the words left his mouth, Du Xiaofu's purple robe shook. He stood with his hands behind his back and directly strode into the large hall. Jialo Kaling looked up slightly, her eyes glowing with golden light. When Du Xiaofu entered the hall, he found himself in a long corridor. "Follow me and stand behind me. Don't cause any more trouble. The elders aren't easy to talk to. If you anger the elders, even I won't be able to protect you." While Du Xiaofu was sizing her up, Jialo Kaling's beautiful figure had already appeared in front of him. Her hair swayed slightly, and the faint fragrance of her body reverberated in the corridor. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath and let out a long breath. He followed behind Jialo Kaling. After a dozen steps, they pushed open an ancient golden wooden door. Creak! As the golden wooden door opened, a majestic hall appeared in Du Xiaofu's sight. Boom! An invisible, vast, and inexplicable aura suddenly hit him in the face. When the golden wooden door opened, Jialo Kaling's beautiful figure walked into the hall. She bowed slightly to the dozen figures sitting on both sides of the hall and said, "Elders, Du Xiaofu has been brought here." At this moment, the dozen figures in the hall were all old and middle-aged. There were both men and women, and they were all dressed differently. Numerous gazes within the large hall immediately landed on Du Xiaofu's body the moment the golden wooden door was pushed open. Their gazes were quite complicated and they faintly contained some surprise and shock. Those gazes were also filled with golden brilliance, like the most mysterious galaxy in the depths of the starry sky, vast and deep. Under the gaze of those golden gazes, Du Xiaofu's body trembled. The blood in his body fluctuated, and the primordial spirit in the Naiwen Palace in his mind also trembled. Among those invisible auras, Du Xiaofu felt that many of them were much more unfathomable and vast than the auras of the two territorial masters from Hahuan's school, Ru Meng and Kuang Ru's. At the head of the hall, there was a skinny old man with long red hair sitting upright. The old man seemed to be in his 70s, and his face was calm. The fact that he was able to sit at the head of the hall was proof of his status in the golden-winged Great Pink clan. Beside the skinny red-haired old man sat a majestic old man who seemed to be around the same age. The majestic old man wore light yellow tight-fitting clothes. His exposed shoulders and arms were covered in rings of ancient golden inscriptions. Not far away, there was a beautiful woman in a long dress sitting upright. She had a graceful expression. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath while the profound energy within his body surged slightly, and only then was he barely able to ease up from the powerful aura that assaulted his face, and then he secretly gazed at the hall and was astounded in his heart. With the sharp senses of his primordial spirit, Du Xiaofu very easily sensed that the dozen figures in the hall were all in the Beast region. Many of them were definitely not ordinary Beast region cultivators. Many of their auras were definitely not below Zi Xian's, and there were even quite a few auras that were not something that Zi Xian or the two territorial masters from Hahuan's school could compare to. Fifth Protector. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu saw a familiar middle-aged figure in the hall. It was the fifth protector that he had seen not long ago. At this moment, the fifth protector looked at Du Xiaofu at the entrance of the hall and sneered. Then, he looked at Jialo Kaling, and his face twitched with a hint of gloominess. Du Xiaofu, quickly greet the elders. That is the fourth elder, the fifth elder, and that is the head protector. Jialo Kaling gave Du Xiaofu a look and told Du Xiaofu to bow. Junior greets the fourth elder, the fifth elder, the head protector, and the other elders. Du Xiaofu bowed. On the way here, he had learned from Jialo Kaling that the fourth elder, Jialo Yi, and the fifth elder, Jialo Yuantu, were the leaders of the protector group today. The other key person was the head protector, Jialo Huanyu. Although Jialo Huanyu was not an elder, as the head protector of the golden-winged Great Rock clan, his status was extraordinary. Ordinary elders could not compare to him. In addition, the four commanders of the younger generation in the golden-winged Great Rock clan were also extraordinary. Their status in the clan was even higher than that of ordinary protectors. Du Xiaofu glanced at the fourth elder, the fifth elder, and the head protector. At this moment, the fourth elder, Jialo Yi, was sitting in the middle of the hall. He had long red hair and a thin figure. However, The aura on his body was definitely the most dangerous in the entire hall to Du Xiaofu. Next to fourth elder Jialo Yi, it wasn't difficult for Du Xiaofu to guess that the majestic figure with the strange golden runes on his arm should be fifth elder Jialo Yuantu. The graceful and beautiful woman was undoubtedly the head protector, Jialo Huanyu. As for the other elders of the golden-winged Great Rock clan, Jialo Kailing did not introduce them one by one. Hence, Du Xiaofu did not recognize them at this moment. How dare you act so presumptuously in the golden-winged Great Rock clan? It seems like I can't let you live! As Du Xiaofu's voice fell, the fifth elder, Jialo Yuantu, stared at Du Xiaofu gloomily. Fifth elder, may I ask how I have acted presumptuously? Du Xiaofu raised his head and asked. Seeing that the fifth protector was present, he had already guessed the reason. The fifth protector had probably arrived early to complain. However, Du Xiaofu did not intend to tolerate it at this moment. Even in the golden-winged Great Rock clan, it was not Du Xiaofu's temperament to submit to humiliation. In any case, these old fellows had no intention of letting him off. When they saw that Du Xiaofu actually dared to question the fifth elder directly, there was a brief moment of silence in the hall. Aren't you presumptuous enough to injure a disciple of the golden-winged Great Rock clan? The fifth protector, who was standing in the silent hall, spoke as he looked at Du Xiaofu with a gloomy and ugly expression. When the young ones provoke me, they immediately complain to the old ones when they can't beat me. So this is the style of the golden-winged Great Rock clan? Du Xiaofu glanced at the fifth protector indifferently and said, You! When the fifth protector heard this, he was at a loss for words for a moment. The dozen or so elders looked at Du Xiaofu with a complicated and curious expression. These elders, especially when they had just heard the fifth protector say that Jialo Juyu had also been suppressed by Du Xiaofu, could not help but feel shocked even with their mental states. All the elders knew that Jialo Juyu was one of the top few existences among the younger generation of the golden-winged Great Rock clan. As an outstanding member of the younger generation of the golden-winged Great Rock clan, he was able to subdue dragons and tigers in the outside world. Among the younger generation of the entire human race, other than seeing if there was anyone in the few great clans who could resist Jialo Juyu, there was no one above Kyushu who could be a match for him. In comparison, they were probably just ants. When they heard that Jialo Juyu had been defeated by Du Xiaofu, and that Du Xiaofu was also an extremely young human youth above Kyushu, the elders of the golden-winged Great Rock clan could not help but be shocked. How could there be such a terrifying youth above Kyushu? When they first heard that Du Xiaofu had killed Dragon 9 and defeated Dragon 7 and Dragon 8, some of the elders did not believe it. But now, although they had not seen it with their own eyes, they naturally believed the fifth protector's words and had no choice but to accept the truth. Fifth protector, I have already taken care of the matter. No matter what, I was the one who brought him back, so I will naturally take responsibility for everything. Fifth protector, you don't have to worry about it. If fifth protector is too free, why don't we ask fifth protector to be the vanguard and make a trip to the four seas since the dragons dared to touch my golden-winged Great Rock clan? Jialo Kailing's beautiful face sank as she looked at the fifth protector. She knew very well that the fifth protector was targeting her. Hearing Jialo Kailing's words, the fifth protector was completely speechless. Although the fifth protector was in the beast domain realm, he was only in the initial domain realm. It was difficult for him to do anything to Jialo Kailing. Asking him to make a trip to the four seas was akin to courting death. All right, let's not discuss the matters of the younger generation today. At the head of the hall, the skinny red-haired elder spoke. As the red-haired elder spoke, everyone in the hall slightly retracted their gazes. Even the fifth elder, Jialo Yuantu, straightened his posture. Chapter 13-19. Translator, H2DH2. Mr. Du Xiaofu looked at the skinny red-haired old man and knew that he was fourth elder Jialo Yi. His skinny body gave off an imperceptible sense of immense pressure. He sat there like a lazy and peerless beast. If he were to explode, he would probably be able to shatter the heavens. As Du Xiaofu looked at him, fourth elder Jialo Yi also looked at Du Xiaofu. His expression was calm as he sized Du Xiaofu up. Gradually, a look of surprise appeared on his face. However, he concealed it so easily that no one would be able to see it. Fourth Elder Jialo Ye's gaze slowly swept over Du Xiaofu's body. He then said, "You must be the human Du Xiaofu known as the Demon King. I'm sure you know what's going on now that you've entered the great Golden-Winged Rock clan. I'll give you two choices. Become an eternal battle servant of the great Golden-Winged Rock clan, and you can keep the secret bone and the great Golden-Winged Rock wing with you forever. Otherwise, you can dig out the secret bone and hand over the great Golden-Winged Rock wing. Make your choice." Upon hearing the fourth elder's words, all eyes fell on Du Xiaofu. The corners of the fifth protector's mouth curled into a sneer. "I think fourth elder has misunderstood. I've not come to the great Golden-Winged Rock clan to hand over the secret bone and the great Golden-Winged Rock wing. I've only come to give the great Golden-Winged Rock clan an explanation." Du Xiaofu was shocked by this outcome. He looked at fourth elder Jialo Yi and said, "I obtained the secret bone by accident. Now that I fused with it, there's no way I can hand it over. As for the great Golden-Winged Rock wing, I also obtained it by chance. I didn't obtain it from the great Golden-Winged Rock clan. How can I hand it over?" Many people's gazes rippled when they heard Du Xiaofu's words. The great guardian, Jialo Huanyu, was also looking at Du Xiaofu curiously. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes. "Young man, you can think about it carefully. Don't let your emotions affect your decisions. This is the Golden-Winged Great Rocks." Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, fourth elder Jialo Yi didn't show the slightest sign of anger. He still spoke to Du Xiaofu in a calm manner. "I've already thought about it. If the Golden-Winged Great Rocks want to bully others, I have nothing to say," Du Xiaofu said. "Looks like we can only let you take the second option. Do you want to do it yourself, or do you want us to do it?" The corners of fifth elder Jialo Yuantu's mouth rose as he looked at Du Xiaofu with a hint of anger in his eyes. A human youth dared to be so unruly in front of them. In addition, he was already displeased. At this moment, he didn't intend to say anything more. "If you want to bully the young, I have nothing to say. Just do it. This proves that the Golden-Winged Great Rocks are nothing more than this. I don't care about the mystic bone and the great Golden-Winged Great Rock wing." Du Xiaofu looked directly at fifth elder Jialo Yuantu, his eyes emitting a faint golden light. "How dare you? Behave yourself." Jialo Kailing's beautiful face changed. This guy was supposed to behave himself, but in the main hall, he kept talking back. After scolding Du Xiaofu, Jialo Kailing immediately bowed to fifth elder Jialo Yuantu and said, "Fifth elder elders, this kid speaks without thinking, but after all, he did help us. If it wasn't for his help a few days ago, I'm afraid we would have all been buried in front of the dragons. Moreover, he didn't take the mystic bone, and the great rock wing was obtained by chance. Elders, please reconsider. Otherwise, if this spreads, I'm afraid the outside world will say that the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan is ruthless. This will also lose the face of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan." Hearing Jialo Kailing's words, many of the elders around were moved. This woman is a woman of her words. Du Xiaofu looked at the tall woman beside him and thought in his heart, "This woman seemed difficult to deal with, but after getting along with her, she wasn't as difficult to deal with as she seemed." Kailing's words are not without reason. If this spreads out, the outside world will definitely say that the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan is ruthless. This will also lose the reputation of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan. Great Guardian Jialo Huanyu, who had been silent all this time, spoke. His voice was long and calm. Boom! Just as Great Guardian Jialo Huanyu's voice faded, the main hall suddenly shook. Everyone's gaze followed the aura, and immediately fell on fifth elder Jialo Yuantu. At this moment, fifth elder Jialo Yuantu had already stood up and waved his hand. Golden light surged in his palm, and strands of golden talisman runes slowly rose from his palm like rising smoke. Then, they gathered in his palm and formed a small golden-winged great rock shadow. What a powerful force! Looking at the golden-winged great rock shadow in Jialo Yuantu's palm, Du Xiaofu's pupils suddenly shrank. He could feel that the small golden-winged great rock shadow seemed to have formed a space of its own, and he couldn't feel any aura from it. But even so, Du Xiaofu could feel how terrifying the power in Jialo Yuantu's hand was. That aura was like a calm volcano. It seemed calm, but once it erupted, it would be destroyed. Kid, I won't bully you as an old man, and the golden-winged great rock clan won't bully you either. Fifth Elder Jialo Yuantu opened his mouth and looked at Du Xiaofu. Since you were able to defeat Jialo Jueyo, it proves that your strength isn't ordinary. I will control my strength below the beast realm. As long as you can last half an hour in my hands, the golden-winged great rock bone and great rock wings in your body will belong to you. My golden-winged great rock clan will no longer interfere. If you can't resist, then pray for yourself and bear the consequences. Let's see if your strength isn't as good as your sharp tongue. Hearing the fifth elder's words, Jialo Kailing's delicate face twitched violently. Jialo Kailing was very clear about the fifth elder's cultivation. He had already reached the peak of the great domain and was close to the domain realm. Regardless of whether it was the beast honorable realm or the martial honorable realm, a mere thought from the fifth elder would be enough to turn them into ashes, not to mention raising a hand or foot. Even if the fifth elder said that he would only use his strength below the beast realm, Jialo Kailing knew that the fifth elder was a domain realm expert. Even if he only used his strength below the beast realm, she might not be able to resist for half an hour with her current cultivation and strength. Not to mention that Du Xiaofu was only a chaotic element martial honorable. Fifth elder, I'm afraid this isn't appropriate. The fifth elder is a dignified elder of our clan. Even if you suppress your strength and attack Du Xiaofu, it won't be good if the outside world says that the fifth elder attacked a puny chaotic element martial honorable. Why don't you let me do it for you? Jialo Kailing bit her red lips with her pearly white teeth. She knew that Du Xiaofu was extremely strong. He was definitely an abnormal existence among humans. However, in the face of the fifth elder, who was suppressing his strength, he was still not strong enough. Hearing this, the fifth elder, Jialo Yuantu, said to Jialo Kailing, Kailing, don't say too much. If you let this go, I'm afraid it will damage the reputation of our golden-winged rock clan. As soon as the fifth elder's voice fell, a golden light suddenly surged out from his eyes. His palm immediately turned upside down and slapped towards Du Xiaofu. An invisible palm print distorted the space of the hall and directly enveloped Du Xiaofu's body. Boom! In an instant, the golden light blazed. The illusory little golden-winged rock's shadow shuttled back and forth in the fifth elder's palm, wanting to flap its wings. A terrifying golden-winged rock's overbearing pressure spread out from it, causing the blood in one's body to freeze and the soul to tremble. That terrifying pressure only existed on Du Xiaofu's body and did not leak out at all. Even the hall and the ground were not affected at all. It was extremely strange. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt that the space behind him suddenly solidified. An unparalleled overbearing force swept down from all directions, wanting to crush Du Xiaofu's body into a bloody mist in an instant. At this point, Du Xiaofu had no other choice. A golden light rushed out from his body, and an overbearing aura swept out from his tall and straight body. Boom! The golden talisman engravings lingered, and a golden light rushed out like a sun, directly colliding with the fifth elder's palm print, causing the hall to tremble. However, the dazzling golden light in Du Xiaofu's body was firmly suppressed by the fifth elder's palm, unable to penetrate. As Du Xiaofu resisted, the surrounding elders were surprised. At this moment, the young human Du Xiaofu's body really had the aura of a golden-winged rock. Although the elders in the hall had heard about Du Xiaofu's matter, it was the first time they had seen with their own eyes that a human had actually cultivated the cultivation method of the golden-winged rock clan. They were all secretly amazed. At this moment, although Jialo Kailing's beautiful face changed greatly, she was already helpless. She could only watch anxiously from the side, hoping that the abnormal human boy could resist. However, how could Jialo Kailing not know that if Du Xiaofu wanted to contend against the fifth elder who had suppressed his cultivation, he would need a miracle to do so? Chi La. The golden talisman engravings on Du Xiaofu's body surged out, resisting the fifth elder's crushing pressure. However, almost instantly, the golden talisman engravings were obliterated, unable to resist at all. Kacha! Du Xiaofu's footsteps trembled as if a huge force was crushing him. His feet suddenly stepped into the ground, stepping on the floor of the hall. However, he did not bend over. This boy is quite arrogant. His physical body seems to be terrifying too. An elder who looked to be in his 60s said softly. He could naturally see that under normal circumstances, Du Xiaofu should have bent over and crawled under the fifth elder's crushing pressure. However, the human Du Xiaofu refused to bend over. That was why the terrifying force landed directly on his feet, causing the ground to collapse. If his physical body was not strong enough, it would be enough to crush his body. From this, it was enough to see that the young human Du Xiaofu's physical body was very strong. Chi la la. The moment his feet touched the ground, a dazzling golden light rushed out from Du Xiaofu's back again. The golden rock wings were activated and immediately spread out. Golden light burst out, carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged rock clan, resisting the crushing pressure of Jialo Yuantu. Golden rock wings. When Du Xiaofu activated the golden rock wings, the elders in the hall could not help but change their expressions. Those were the real golden rock wings. Judging from the aura, the bloodline contained in the golden rock wings was above theirs. Kacha. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu activated the golden rock wings, but only lasted for a few breaths. It was still difficult to resist the fifth elder Jialo Yuantu. Under the crushing pressure of the endless mysterious force, the mysterious runes on Du Xiaofu's golden rock wings were also being obliterated. Du Xiaofu's body trembled, as if his body was about to explode. Blue veins were exposed on his face, but he clenched his teeth tightly and did not groan. Faint golden blood began to flow from the corner of his mouth, making him look even more ferocious. That's the blood of our clan's golden-winged rock. Even the blood in the body is the same. The human clan has integrated the bones of the golden-winged rock clan and the golden rock wings to cultivate our clan's cultivation method. Incredible! Incredible! The elders in the hall were shocked. Although they had heard all this, seeing it with their own eyes at this moment, that kind of shock increased by a few points. Du Xiaofu was still holding on with all his strength. The vigorous qi in his body surged out, resisting with the strength of his physical body, and with the assistance of the golden rock wings. Kacha! Du Xiaofu's body gradually began to crack. On the exposed skin, small cracks could be seen bursting open, and blood filled the air. But then, on the cracks on Du Xiaofu's body, there was a faint purple lightning fluctuation, causing the wounds to slowly heal in front of everyone's eyes. However, they were once again crushed and cracked. What a strange body! An elder in his 50s looked at Du Xiaofu's body and was quite surprised. It's not strange. It's a terrifying physical body that can heal itself. If he were in a fierce battle, he could rely on his physical body to sweep through everything. If he were at the same level of cultivation, I'm afraid that his physical body alone would be enough to crush him to death. Great Guardian Jialo Huanyu said. She had seen how terrifying Du Xiaofu's physical body was, and her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. No, it doesn't seem right. The body refining method has already reached the stage of refining the divine body. Suddenly, Great Guardian Jialo Huanyu's beautiful eyes were filled with surprise again, as if she had discovered something shocking. She suddenly stood up, trembling all over, and said in surprise, "Not only has his physical body reached the stage of refining the divine body using our clan's body refining method, but he has also stepped into the Rio Rock realm." 2 chapters in a row. Chapter 13:20. True Rock Realm. As soon as Jialo Huanyu finished speaking, all the elders in the hall trembled violently. A few of them stood up immediately and looked at Du Xiaofu in astonishment. Under everyone's gaze, Du Xiaofu's ferocious face was covered with golden talisman inscriptions. The inscriptions were sharp and frightening. In his eyes there seemed to be a shadow of a golden-winged rock flapping its wings and soaring. At this moment, The golden talisman inscriptions around Du Xiaofu condensed into a shadow of a golden-winged rock. It flapped its wings and soared into the sky for a while. In the next moment, it looked like it was looking down on all living beings. It was unpredictable and seemed to be psychic. It resonated with Du Xiaofu naturally. It was difficult for anyone in the Golden-Winged Rock clan to reach the true rock realm. The Golden-Winged Rock clan's bloodline had been gradually diluted under the baptism of time. Their physical bodies were also changing and could not be compared to the ancient Great Rock. To the Golden-Winged Rock, one could fly up 90,000 miles with a flap of the wings. This was only a legend. What was the true rock realm? The true rock realm meant that one's physical body was the closest to that of the ancient Great Rock. The level of physical body was different from the strength of the physical body. It was the quality of the physical body. It was similar to the level of bone washing and marrow cleansing in the body cultivation technique. At the same cultivation level, the two golden-winged rocks' physical bodies would definitely differ in strength. The true rock realm meant that one's physical body was the closest to that of the ancient Great Rock. Once the divine body was successfully refined, one's physical body would be as strong as that of the ancient Great Rock. It was said that when the true rock was born, it could shatter the stars and tear the sky apart. It was a legend. However, all the disciples of the Golden-Winged Rock clan knew that the legend was not groundless. The ancient Great Rock was extremely powerful. However, to reach the true rock realm, one could only come by luck. It was not like the body cultivation technique. Although the body cultivation technique was difficult, at least there was a cultivation method and goal. The true rock realm was purely dependent on talent and opportunity. True rock realm! Jialo Kailing, who was nervously looking at each other, had a strange light flickering in her beautiful eyes because of this seeing. Only now did she know that this brat had actually reached the true rock realm. However, Jialo Kailing focused again. She knew that even if Du Xiaofu was in the real rock realm, he wouldn't be able to change anything in front of the fifth elder. The fifth elder, Jialo Yuantu, also discovered that Du Xiaofu had reached the realm of true ping. His eyes were filled with shock, and golden light flickered. However, the crushing force under the palm did not relax. Even at this moment, the fifth elder's eyes were filled with shock as he quietly increased his strength from the Nirvana Beast Venerable Peak to the half-domain level. Jialo Yuantu was shocked to discover that if he had used the strength of a peak Nirvana Beast Venerable, Du Xiaofu might have been able to resist him for a while. Ka! Du Xiaofu's feet were sinking deeper and deeper into the ground. Almost half of his calves were in the cracks in the ground. His ferocious face looked terrifying. In addition to the pale golden blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, he was like an injured and resisting fierce beast. It's already a miracle. Ordinary half-domain cultivators wouldn't be able to resist for so long. This physical body is too terrifying. In the younger generation of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan, except for Jiryu and Kai Ling, no one can compare to the physical body. The elders in the hall exclaimed. They were shocked by everything that Du Xiaofu had shown at this moment. Du Xiaofu was resisting with all his might. He was proud and would never bend his back. His physical body cracked continuously, but Du Xiaofu didn't make a sound. He gritted his teeth and resisted proudly. This brat is extraordinary! In the hall, many elders also exclaimed. They were very shocked. No wonder he could defeat Jialo Jiuyo. I completely believe it now. A tall and slender man in a long robe couldn't help but say. At first, when he heard the fifth protector say that Jialo Jiuyo was defeated by the human Du Xiaofu, this elder was skeptical. He also thought that even if Du Xiaofu won, it was most likely because he had some peerless divine weapon or some external help. But at this moment, this elder no longer had any doubts. With his eyesight, he naturally knew that even Jialo Jiuyo couldn't resist the fifth elder for so long. Ka! The soles of his feet were still sinking. Du Xiaofu raised his head. The great rock golden wings on his back were almost stuck to his body. Blood dripped from his mouth. Even with the immortal Xian body's recovery speed, it couldn't keep up with the speed of his physical body being crushed and cracked. The cracks on Du Xiaofu's physical body were getting bigger and bigger, and more blood was seeping out. That crushing force carried an invisible mysterious power of space, which made it difficult for Du Xiaofu to resist. Although that power was only around the half-domain level, it hadn't stepped into the domain realm. But that invisible mysterious power was a power that didn't exist under the martial domain realm. It surpassed the beast's sovereign realm. Du Xiaofu's eyes were somewhat ferocious, and purple gold lightning was gradually emerging. At this moment, if he wanted to continue resisting, Du Xiaofu knew that Zi Jin could only activate the thunder martial vein. Otherwise, his physical body would be crushed. Make way, everyone! Make way! Suddenly, an old voice sounded in the hall. An old lady with a crooked back appeared in the hall at some point in time. She was sweeping the hall with a broom in her hand. When everyone heard the voice and looked at the old lady with a crooked back, all of them were shocked. Some of the elders who hadn't stood up suddenly stood up together. Their eyes were wide open and tongue-tied as they looked at each other. They had seen the most unbelievable thing. Even the fourth elder, Jialo Yi, stood up and looked at the old lady in a daze. The old lady swept the floor as if she didn't see fifth elder Jialo Yuantu and Du Xiaofu at all. She lowered her head and slowly swept the floor. Her staggering figure was clearly moving slowly, but for some reason, like a ghost, she naturally appeared in front of Du Xiaofu and fifth elder Jialo Yuantu. Don't block it, make way! The broom in the old lady's hand swept directly at fifth elder Jialo Yuantu's leg. The distorted invisible void under the handprint seemed to have disappeared at this moment, as if it didn't exist at all. Dang dang! Fifth elder Jialo Yuantu's expression changed greatly, and he immediately staggered back. The light dissipated, and the terrifying crushing force disappeared. Du Xiaofu spat out a large mouthful of pale golden blood. He clenched his teeth and stood proudly. The golden wings on his body withdrew, and the purple gold lightning arc that had just appeared in his eyes gradually dissipated. Grandmother! When Du Xiaofu looked at the stumbling figure in front of him, his eyes were filled with shock. Silly child, why are you covered in blood? This old lady is distressed. Looking at Du Xiaofu's blood-drenched, pale face, and blood-stained body, the old lady's old face suddenly sank. Looking at the old lady's appearance, and hearing her words, the fifth elder's face trembled fiercely. Jialo Kailing looked at the stumbling old lady and was stunned. But a moment later, her beautiful and valiant face was filled with surprise. Grandmother, I'm fine. Du Xiaogang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with the sleeve of his purple robe. His cracked body gradually recovered under the surge of faint lightning. How can you be fine when you're injured like this? Which bastard injured my grandson like this? Does he want to make this old lady angry? The old lady said angrily. It was obvious that she was already angry. The fifth elder, Jialo Yuantu, was stunned and didn't dare to talk back. Grandmother, you should leave quickly. This is not a place where you can come, Du Xiaofu said to the old lady. But at this moment, he felt the gazes of the elders of the golden-winged great pink bird clan. He was very surprised and puzzled. Don't worry, there is no place in the golden-winged great pink bird clan that I can't go to. The old lady looked at Du Xiaofu with a distressed face and said, Silly child, you said that you want to recognize me as your grandmother and take care of me for the rest of my life. Are you serious? Of course I'm serious. Du Xiaofu nodded. His pale face revealed a bitter smile. It seemed a little inappropriate for the old lady to come in and make such a scene. Okay, then kowtow to me, the old lady said to Du Xiaofu. Her old face was serious and even had a little longing. Du Xiaofu was stunned. He looked at the old lady's serious face and the longing in her eyes. He didn't care about the gazes around him. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times. Heaven, earth, sovereign, family, and teacher. Du Xiaofu never knelt to heaven, earth, or sovereign. He only knelt to family and teacher. At this moment, facing the old lady in front of him, he treated her as a true family member in his heart. Good, good, good. Looking at Du Xiaofu kowtowing 3 times, the old lady said, Good. 3 times. Trembling, she immediately helped Du Xiaofu up. Her wrinkled face was a little moist. She said, "Good child, from now on you are this old lady's grandson." After 3 kowtows, Du Xiaofu looked at the old lady in front of him and said, "Grandmother, you go first. I'll see you later." "Okay, I'll listen to you. Remember to come see me later." After the old lady finished speaking, her moist eyes had a kind smile. She held the broom in her hand and slowly walked out of the hall. "Grandmother, take care." Jialo Kailing lowered her head and stood at the side respectfully. Her face was full of smiles. Inside the main hall, all the elders, including the 4th elder, were standing respectfully. No one said anything. It seemed that if the old lady didn't say anything, they wouldn't dare to say anything. As they watched the old lady leave, the elders finally turned their gazes back. After which, they looked at each other and exchanged glances. In the end, all of them looked at Du Xiaofu in unison. All of them carried an extremely strange and complicated expression. "No, this isn't right." Looking at the old lady's departing figure, Du Xiaofu was suddenly puzzled. If the old lady was an ordinary person, she wouldn't be able to enter the hall. She wouldn't be able to resist the aura in the hall. Then, Du Xiaofu looked at the hall and saw the expressions on the faces of the elders. He was even more certain that the old lady wasn't an ordinary person. Who is this old lady? Du Xiaofu was at a loss. It seemed that with the appearance of the old lady, the entire hall suddenly became strange. Chapter 13:21. Elders, how should we deal with Du Xiaofu? Jialo Kailing asked as she looked at the elders in the hall. A strange smile appeared on her valiant and beautiful face, but she pretended to be serious and asked, "Should we dig out Du Xiaofu's secret bone and hand over the golden rock wings?" Upon hearing this, all the elders in the hall, regardless of which faction they belonged to, were stunned. They looked at each other, then their gazes fell on 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu and 4th Elder Jialo Yi. At this moment, the 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu and the 4th Elder Jialo Yi looked at each other with blank expressions. 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu and 4th Elder Jialo Yi still hadn't recovered from their shock. For some reason, the old lady had accepted Du Xiaofu as her grandson. Du Xiaofu had even kowtowed, and the old lady had happily accepted it. This was the truth. Who would dare to touch the old lady's grandson? If they dug out the secret bone and forced him to hand over the golden rock wings, even the great elder, 2nd elder, and 3rd elder wouldn't dare to touch the old lady's grandson. Even if the clan leader came, he would have to be obedient in front of the old lady. Du Xiaofu looked at the many elders in the hall. Looking at the expressions on their faces, he was also puzzled. It was as if these powerful elders of the golden-winged great rocks had suddenly changed. "Elders, please discuss this matter again before making a decision," said Great Elder Jialo Yuantu. Then, he looked at 4th Elder Jialo Yi and 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu and asked, "What do you think, 5th Elder and 4th Elder?" "All right, we will discuss this matter again." 4th Elder Jialo Yi nodded. He didn't have any objections, and was even happy to step down. 5th Elder Jialo Yuantu didn't say anything, silently agreeing with Great Elder Jialo Yuantu's words. The old madam had intervened and even accepted Du Xiaofu as her grandson. Jialo Yuantu knew what was going on. What else could he do? The old lady's words at the beginning were obviously scolding him. At this moment, if he continued to touch that kid, the old lady would not be polite to him anymore. "Kailing, take him away first." "However, he can't leave before the elders have finished their discussion." Jialo Huanyu gestured to Jialo Kailing. Her beautiful eyes were filled with emotions as she looked at Du Xiaofu, who was at a loss as well as Du Xiaofu. "Elders, Kailing will take her leave first." Jialo Kailing understood. She bowed and retreated. She didn't forget to pull Du Xiaofu out of the hall. Looking at Du Xiaofu and Jialo Kailing leaving the main hall, the 5 protectors' faces were either dazed or flushed red. They had a bad premonition. Du Xiaofu had already become the old madam's grandson. The elders didn't dare to touch him, let alone the 5th protector. Looking at Du Xiaofu and Jialo Kailing leaving, the elders in the hall continued to look at each other in dismay. Why did the old madam leave the valley? When did she come out? How did she know that human kid? Fifth Elder Jialo Yuantu looked at Great Elder Jialo Huanyu and asked. He thought that Jialo Huanyu should know when the old madam came out. Jialo Huanyu shook his head and smiled bitterly. I don't know why the old madam suddenly came out. I also don't know how the old madam came to know Du Xiaofu. What should we do now? How should we deal with Du Xiaofu? He's a human after all. He has the Golden Rock clan's mystic bone and Golden Rock wings. If we don't deal with him, I'm afraid that in the future, people will start to think that our Golden Rock clan is no longer what it used to be. If this goes on, I'm afraid that people won't be able to stop themselves from having designs on our clan. An old elder said with a solemn expression. This elder was not targeting Du Xiaofu, but for the entire golden-winged great rocks. Over the years, no one in the world dared to have any designs on the golden-winged great pink clan. No one dared to touch the golden-winged great pink clan's possessions. Even the colossal powers of the 9 provinces and the peak beast clans of the beast region were the same. All of this was because of the absolute strength of the golden-winged great rocks and their tyrannical style. Anyone who dared to touch the Golden Rock clan's belongings would suffer the Golden Rock clan's iron-blooded and powerful revenge. The human Du Xiaofu had the golden-winged great rock mystic bone and the great rock golden wings. If the golden-winged great rock clan did not deal with Du Xiaofu this time, it would definitely cause a huge uproar in the outside world. At that time, the fear that some people in the outside world had towards the golden-winged great rocks for a long time would disappear. When that happened, it would definitely affect the Golden Rock clan greatly. Although it didn't seem like much, it was actually extremely frightening. Just like now, when the younger generation of the Golden Rock clan went out into the outside world, those super experts would definitely be afraid and wouldn't dare to make a move. However, if they didn't deal with Du Xiaofu this time, then the younger generation of the Golden Rock clan would be in greater danger when they went out in the future. However, if the Elder Council insisted on dealing with Du Xiaofu this time, digging out his mystic bone and taking back the Golden Rock wings, then the extraordinary Du Xiaofu would have already fused the mystic bone into his body. When that time came, even if he could keep his life, he would become a cripple from then on. When that time came, with the old lady's temper, she probably wouldn't let them off. When the old lady came to the main hall today, all the elders naturally understood that she wanted to protect Du Xiaofu. In the main hall, all the elders were silent. For a moment, they didn't know what to do. After a while, the 4th elder, Jialo Yi, broke the short silence and said, Let's discuss this matter after the 3rd elder and 2nd elder come out of seclusion. There's still 10 days until the competition of the younger generation. This is a grand event of our clan that occurs once every 300 years. We'll make a decision after this grand event. At that time, the 2nd elder and 3rd elder might come out of seclusion. Jiuyu and Jiuekong should be able to shine in the competition of the younger generation this time. An old woman who seemed to be an elder said. But in the end, first place should be Jiuyu. Jiuyu's strength isn't low either. It's a pity that he was heavily injured by Du Xiaofu this time. He probably won't be able to recover in a short period of time. He might even miss this great opportunity that only comes once every 300 years. In the next 300 years, Jiuyu might have already broken through to the beast domain realm. An elder sighed. He felt some regret for Jialo and Jiuyu. An opportunity that only came once every 300 years was rare. Once they missed it, they wouldn't have another chance in the future. Another 300 years have passed in the blink of an eye. The 4th elder, Jialo Yi, raised his eyes and sighed. Then there was some doubt in his eyes as he said, But it seems to be extremely quiet in there recently. Nothing should have happened, right? Don't worry. Nothing should have happened in there. We'll strengthen the seal every time it's opened, said the 5th protector, Jialo Yuantu. Suddenly, the 1st protector, Jialo Huanyu, spoke with a complicated expression. Kai Ling missed the opportunity in this competition. If that guy was still in the clan, he would probably be Jiuyu's greatest opponent. Back then, his talent wasn't inferior to Jiuyu and Kai Ling's. I wonder how much he has improved over the years? Upon hearing Jialo Huanyu's words, the expressions of the elders in the hall changed. They naturally knew who Great Guardian Jialo Huanyu was talking about. To them, that was a name that was rarely heard of in the past few decades. In fact, it was a name that had been forgotten by many people. Jialo Jueyu. The fifth protector's eyes trembled. He knew who that person was. He didn't agree with the clan's decision back then and left the clan for almost 100 years. His talent is indeed not inferior to Jueyu and Kai Ling's. It's a pity that he's too stubborn and arrogant, said the fifth elder, Jialo Yuantu. Because of him, the old lady hasn't left the valley for almost 100 years, sighed an elder. Jialo Jueyu has been in the outside world for so long, and there hasn't been any news from him. Maybe he's already. The old elder didn't finish his sentence. The top experts of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan would definitely be wary of the younger generation in the outside world. However, they also knew that if someone dared to touch the younger generation of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan, they would naturally conceal the news and the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan wouldn't know about it. The mysterious bones and everything about the Golden-Winged Great Rock were too attractive to the outside world. In the courtyard on the mountainside, there were several towering trees in the small square. It was late autumn, but they were unusually lush. Little Star, Zither Demon, Phantom Tiger King, Divine Ape King, and the others were either squatting, standing, or sitting. Their gazes were uncertain, and they would occasionally look at the sky as if they were waiting for something. Chapter 13:22. In front of a large tree, Zixian leaned lazily against the tree trunk. It was just that her beautiful face was somewhat unapproachable. Why isn't father back yet? Is he in danger? Little Xingxing looked into the distance, his big bewitching eyes filled with worry. At this moment Zixian, who was leaning lazily against the tree trunk, lifted her body slightly and looked into the distance. Then, she continued to lean against the tree lazily. Whoosh whoosh! The sound of wind breaking came from the distance. Ghost Chariot, Guqing Demon, Shangguan Qixian, and the others immediately looked up and saw two figures flying over. The Hall Master is back! Spiritual Illusion Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Little Falcon, and the others got up and welcomed them happily. Whoosh whoosh! The two figures landed in front of the courtyard. They were Du Xiaofu and Jialo Kailing, who had just returned from the main hall. Father, what happened to you? Did those old fellows from the Golden Rock clan attack you? One day, I won't let them off. Little Xingxing immediately became worried when he saw Du Xiaofu's blood-stained and deathly pale appearance. His tender voice was extremely authoritative. Jialo Kailing looked at Little Xingxing and smiled helplessly. Your father is fine. Don't worry. Really? Little Xingxing still couldn't believe it. He raised his head and asked Du Xiaofu. It's nothing. It's just a small injury. Du Xiaofu patted Little Xingxing's shoulder and smiled. Don't worry. This small injury will be healed soon. Zixian, who was leaning lazily against the tree, looked at Du Xiaofu and raised her eyebrows slightly. Then, she continued to bask in the sun as if nothing had happened. It was as if everything around her had nothing to do with her. All right, you should heal first. You can't leave the clan for the time being. I will inform you if there are any results. Jialo Kailing said to Du Xiaofu and smiled at Zixian. Then, a faint golden light rippled under her feet, and she flew away. Did they do anything to you? The Zither Devil, Shangguan Qixian, withdrew his sword from Jialo Kailing and looked at Du Xiaofu. It's fine now. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. His expression was still puzzled. Who exactly was that old lady? What kind of status did she have in the Golden-Winged Great Rocks? On the way back, Du Xiaofu had also asked Jialo Kailing about it. However, Jialo Kailing didn't seem to want to say much. She only said that he would know when the time came. Hall Master, what should we do now? Are we still going to stay with the Golden-Winged Great Rocks? Little Falcon stepped forward and asked Du Xiaofu. He felt that it wasn't safe to stay with the Golden-Winged Great Rocks. I'm afraid we won't be able to leave for the time being. I need to go into seclusion for a few days to recover from my injuries. Just don't cause any trouble here, Du Xiaofu said to Little Falcon, Phantom Tiger King, and the others. Hearing this, Phantom Tiger King, Violent Bear King, and the others looked at each other. How would they dare to cause trouble in the Golden Winged Great Rocks? Help me look after Little Star. I need to recover for a few days. Du Xiaofu went to Zixian's side. With no one in the Golden Winged Great Rocks looking after Little Star, Du Xiaofu couldn't be at ease. You don't have to tell me. I will. Zixian looked at Du Xiaofu with her beautiful eyes, then continued to lean lazily against the tree trunk and bask in the sun. After a while, outside the room, Du Xiaofu placed a seal before entering the room. He called out the ancient desolate space between his eyebrows and entered it. This was the Golden Winged Great Rock's secret bone and rock blood. Du Xiaofu was very clear that even if the super experts of the Golden Winged Great Rocks discovered the ancient desolate space on him, they wouldn't think much of it. Du Xiaofu really needed time to recover, and there were other things he needed to do. He had no choice but to spend time in the ancient desolate space. In the misty ancient desolate space, an ancient and boundless aura filled the air. Swish! Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged. After a while, his body was enveloped in a pale golden energy halo. This time, under the pressure of Fifth Elder Jialo Yuantu, Du Xiaofu's physical body was injured. However, with the immortal Xian body and the refinement of his divine body in the true rock realm, his physical body wasn't much of a problem, but his internal injuries weren't light. As Du Xiaofu adjusted his breathing, time slowly passed in the ancient desolate space. In the Golden Winged Great Rocks, the news of Jialo Jiao's crushing defeat at the hands of the human Du Xiaofu spread, shocking all the Golden Winged Great Rocks. All kinds of news about Du Xiaofu spread, and there were many who added fuel to the fire, making many Golden Winged Great Rocks curious. In the end, even many Golden Winged Great Rocks believed that Du Xiaofu was born from the bloodline of the Golden Winged Great Rocks and a human. Therefore, as a human, he had the bones and blood of the Golden Winged Great Rocks, and could activate the supreme beast energy of the Golden Winged Great Rocks. However, the Golden Winged Great Rocks, who were helped by Du Xiaofu and the others that day, put in a lot of good words for Du Xiaofu and the others in front of the other members of the clan, and they were full of praise. They heard that Du Xiaofu defeated Du Xiaofu with the supreme beast energy of the Golden Winged Great Rocks, threatened the dragons of the beast realm, and even risked his life to save the members of the clan. This made many Golden Winged Great Rocks have a good impression of Du Xiaofu. However, in the main hall, the news of Du Xiaofu becoming the grandson of the mysterious old lady didn't leak out. It was probably because the elders deliberately concealed it and didn't spread it in the clan. Time passed slowly. Although Du Xiaofu had caused quite a commotion in the Golden Winged Great Rocks, the younger generation of the Golden Winged Great Rocks began to prepare as the grand competition of the younger generation of the Golden Winged Great Rocks was approaching. The younger generation of the Golden Winged Great Rocks were making their final push for the grand competition. If they could make another breakthrough in the final period of time, they would definitely attract the attention of the elders in the clan during the grand competition, and they would be able to obtain more cultivation resources in the future. At dusk, the secluded valley was shrouded in the sunset glow. Grandmother. The courtyard of the secluded valley was ordinary and quiet. Jialo Kailing appeared at the entrance of the quiet courtyard, and her voice was gentle and respectful as she spoke to a stumbling old lady who was sweeping the courtyard. Why are you here, girl? Come in. The old lady straightened her stumbling body, and a smile appeared on her wrinkled face. I'm here to see grandmother. Jialo Kailing's voice was gentle, and her tall figure came to the old lady's side. She took the broom and supported the old lady to sit on a rattan chair at the side. Little girl, you must have come for something. Tell me, why are you looking for grandmother? The old lady smiled at Jialo Kailing, as if she could see through her at a glance. Sure enough, I can't hide it from grandmother. Jialo Kailing smiled, and a slight change appeared on her charming face. She asked, Grandmother, did you look for Du Xiaofu alone? What little boy? He's my grandson now, and he's your younger brother. Don't bully him in the future. The old lady smiled, and she seemed to be in a good mood. Hearing this, Jialo Kailing's smile froze on her face. She was clear about that kid's temper. In this world, there weren't many people who dared to bully him. Jialo Jiuyo was one of them. Grandmother, that kid is your grandson now. Who would dare to bully him? The fourth elder and the fifth elder are having a headache now. I'm afraid that they won't dare to touch that kid. Jialo Kailing smiled. What they want to do is their business. I've said before that I won't bother about the clan's matters anymore, the old lady said. Jialo Kailing smiled bitterly. She was clear that the old lady had already acknowledged her grandson. Although she said that she wouldn't bother about the clan's matters, who would dare to touch that kid now? After that, Jialo Kailing's charming face changed slightly. She said to the old lady, Grandmother, you've seen that kid, right? Are you sure that he's Ju Qi? The wrinkles on the old lady's face suddenly froze. After a while, she shook her head and said softly, It's not Ju Qi. Ju Qi's secret bone is different. That's why the clan insisted on choosing Ju Yu. That's why he left in a fit of anger. It's not Ju Qi. Hearing this, Jialo Kailing was astonished. She looked at the old lady and asked, If that's the case, Ju Qi is still outside. But where did that kid get his secret bone from? All these years, none of our clan's disciples have gone out and never returned. Silly girl. Our clan exists in this world, but not all of them are in our clan. As far as I know, there's another place in this world where our clan members are. The old lady smiled at Jialo Kailing and said, Don't bother about where Xiaofu's secret bone came from. He's my grandson now. Back then, I lost a grandson. This time, I've picked up another one. The heavens are kind to me. Jialo Kailing was silent for a while. She looked at the old lady and asked, Grandmother, Ju Qi's whereabouts are still unknown. Should we continue to look for him? He has the demonic bone. Back then, you said that if he wasn't in the clan, he wouldn't be able to last another 100 years. Now, the 100 years are almost up. The old lady was silent again. She slowly got up and walked into the courtyard. She said to Jialo Kailing with her old voice, Let nature take its course. His temper is much more stubborn than yours and Ju Yu's. If he's going to come back, he'll come back. If he's not going to come back, it's useless even if we find him. I understand, Grandmother. Jialo Kailing nodded. She stood in the courtyard for a while before leaving. Chapter 1323. Middle Ground. Not long after the news of the Demon King Du Xiaofu in Shangzhou spread, an even more shocking piece of news spread throughout Middle Ground. It was rumored that many evil spirits had surged into Middle Ground, causing the entire Middle Ground to panic. Under such circumstances, the Purifying Evil Alliance of Middle Ground was established under the active leadership of the Great Lun sect. The leader of the Purifying Evil Alliance of Middle Ground was chosen from the younger generation. Great Lun sect, Ancient Yu City. Hundreds of millions of people surged into the city, attracting the attention of the entire Middle Ground. The ancient heaven sect's Ruo Shui Han descended its spirit. Boundless sect's Jiu Ling, Spirit Sky Valleys and Ling Jun, Intelligent Sword sect's Wu Ming, Xiandu Gates Jiang Wolin, Sky Snake sect's Xilong An, Profound Underworld sect's Ming Ronging, Profound Talisman sect's Zhu Shui, Great Lun sect's Dongli Qi Wang. These most famous of the younger generation in Middle Ground were fighting for the position of leader of the Purifying Evil Alliance in Ancient Yu City. It was said that the battle was even more shocking than the Divine Lightning Body Tempering competition in the sealed Ancient Land. According to the rumors of the spectators, the battle between the younger generation for the position of leader of the Purifying Evil Alliance was like the end of the world. In the end, just as everyone had guessed, the position of leader fell on Dongli Qi Huang, one of the two, Jiu Ling and Dongli Qi Huang. However, many shocking things had also happened in that battle. It was rumored that Profound Talisman sect's Chenyan had defeated Ancient Heaven sect's Ling Sky Snake sect's Xilong Yang and Jiu Ling were almost evenly matched. In the end, Dongli Qi Huang defeated Jiu Ling and Wu Ming. His strength was unfathomable. Even among the experts present, not many could see his true strength. With the establishment of the Central Province's Evil Purging Alliance, Dongli Chihuang once again became the center of attention. He led the Evil Purging Alliance and began to purge the evil spirits. The news that Dongli Chihuang had become the leader of the Purifying Evil Alliance spread. People in the Central Plains couldn't help but secretly discuss. If the Demon King Du Xiaofu had also been present, would Dongli Chihuang still have been able to become the alliance leader? Would he still be able to suppress the Demon King Du Xiaofu? Sima Muhan of the Ancient Heaven sect did not show up in this competition of the younger generation of the entire Central Plains. Cheng Xingnan of the Divine Light Court was nowhere to be seen either. Du Xiaoqing of the Du family of the Barren Country, who was also one of the top 10 geniuses, did not show up this time either. At the same time, some people found it strange that no one from the World Assembly, which had risen to prominence in the Central Plains in recent years, was participating in the competition despite not having reached the level of the Ancient Heaven sect, the Great Lun sect, and the Boundless sect. According to the rules, the current World Society absolutely had the qualifications to participate in the grand competition. The Ancient Heaven sect. A group of towering peaks clustered around a huge mountain peak. The surroundings were lush green and shrouded in clouds and mist. In the distance, thousands of mountains rose and fell, magnificent and boundless. On the mountain peak, a 7 feet tall man was gazing into the distance. His blue robe with embroidered green patterns fluttered slightly in the wind. His long black hair was neatly combed into a bun, with a few strands of hair hanging down from his ears. The Purifying Evil Alliance. I keep feeling that this matter is unusual. The Great Lun sect most likely has other motives behind it. The middle-aged man turned his head. He was around 40 years old, with a handsome face. His skin was faintly lustrous, and his eyes flashed with a deep glass-like light. He was the master of the Ancient Heaven sect, Sima Taking. I haven't seen any evil spirits in the Central Plains. Why did they suddenly appear this time? The Great Lun sect is also immediately roping in all parties to form the Purifying Evil Alliance. Their speed is too fast. An old man in his 50s stood beside Sima Taking with a puzzled look on his face. The purpose of the Great Lun sect made him very suspicious. Let's not worry about the Great Lun sect for now. We'll see when the time comes. Sima Taking frowned slightly. His expression turned serious as he asked the old man. Protector Hao, do you have any specific information about Xiaofu? The old man was Protector Hao, Sima Taking's trusted aide. Although he was only a protector, his status in the Manchu was not low. Hearing this, Protector Hao replied to Sima Taking. I came because I received news about that kid. It said that after he left the Shang province, he seemed to have appeared in the Beast region. That guy went to the Beast region? Sima Taking immediately raised his eyes in confusion. Then he thought of something and his expression turned completely serious. He said, This is bad. That's the Beast region. What are you worried about, Sect Master? Protector Hao's expression changed slightly as he asked Sima Taking. That kid has offended quite a few beast clans on the Tianhuang continent. The Four Seas dragons are not far from the Beast region. Sima Taking's gaze trembled. He looked at Protector Hao and said, There's also the golden-winged Great Ping clan. That kid has the golden-winged Great Ping's wings. If the golden-winged Great Ping clan finds out, I'm afraid the consequences, this... Protector Hao's gaze also trembled when he heard this. He took a deep breath and looked at Sima Taking. But that's the Beast region. Our Ancient Heaven sect is beyond our reach. Not to mention beyond our reach, that's the Beast region. Even if our Ancient Heaven sect's army went there, we probably wouldn't be able to cause too much of a stir. Sima Taking smiled bitterly in his worry. He said, Right now, we can only hope that the kid is on his own. He should have thought of this since he went to the Beast region himself. But that kid's life has always been tough. Perhaps we were worried for nothing. Protector Hao also smiled bitterly. He said, Sect Master, the young miss has been at her grandmother's house for quite some time. When will she return? If the young miss was here this time, even Dongli Chihuang might not be able to seize the position of Alliance Master. There's news that the Great Calamity is coming. Muhan has been asked to cultivate in seclusion there. This is the first time she's been willing to cultivate like that. This is a good thing, said Sima taking. Protector Hao looked at Sima taking and smiled. He said, the young miss is willing to cultivate like that. I'm afraid it has something to do with that kid Du Xiaofu. Sigh, there's been more and more things happening recently. Is this the precursor to the great calamity? Sima taking stood with his hands behind his back as he looked at the sky. His azure robes fluttered in the wind as the deep light in his eyes shot into the sky. Walala! Within the ancient desolate space, the faint golden light around Du Xiaofu slowly withdrew into his body. Boom! When the last wisp of faint golden energy drilled into Du Xiaofu's body, he opened his eyes and a golden light shot out. As he spat out a mouthful of turbid air from his abdomen, an extremely powerful aura shook the surrounding space. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's pale face had also recovered its ruddy complexion. Du Xiaofu's mind was restrained. He felt the abundant xianqi in his body, and the full power of the primordial spirit in his mind. The smile on his face relaxed a lot, but he still couldn't be happy. My strength is still not enough. It's far from enough. I must increase my strength as soon as possible. Originally, Du Xiaofu felt that his strength should be considered good among the younger generation. However, after seeing the strength of Dragon 8, Dragon 7, Jialo Juyu, and the others, Du Xiaofu felt that he didn't have any advantage in front of the pure-blooded descendants of the top beast clans. Although he had defeated Dragon 7, Dragon 8, and Jialo Juyu, Du Xiaofu guessed that the strongest among the younger generation of the dragons and golden-winged rocks weren't Dragon 7, Dragon 8, or Jialo Juyu. For example, Jialo Kaling was also considered a member of the younger generation in the golden-winged rocks, but she was already a terrifying existence in the beast region. At the current chaotic element martial venerable level, Du Xiaofu knew that it wouldn't be easy to increase his cultivation level, but he could think of some ways to increase his strength. In addition, he hadn't made any great progress in the Tao of Talismans for a long time. Although he had the mysterious incomplete cultivation method and the primordial spirit that had fused with two types of spiritual lightning and spiritual root, and the primordial spirit's power had been constantly increasing, it was definitely not easy to break through from the 8-star chaotic element to the 8-star nirvana realm. Heavenly Spirit Record. At the thought of the Tao of Talismans, Du Xiaofu recalled the heavenly spirit record that his master, Duanmu Qiongtian, had left for him. He searched through everything in the heavenly spirit record in his mind. Blood Soul Seal. Du Xiaofu carefully searched through all the remarkable abilities recorded in the heavenly spirit record and saw the Blood Soul Seal again. The Blood Soul Seal was a core secret technique recorded in the heavenly spirit record that belonged to the beast control technique. At this moment, Du Xiaofu carefully read through the heavenly spirit record in his mind. According to the heavenly spirit record, as long as one could cultivate the Blood Soul Seal, they would be able to use the beast control technique. This kind of beast controlling technique was much stronger than the beast controlling techniques in this world. However, the beast control technique had extremely high requirements to cultivate the Blood Soul Seal. It required an extremely strong soul power to be able to use it. However, this beast control technique only required a Blood Soul Seal to be placed in the beast soul of the demonic beast's mind. When the time came, the demonic beast would obey his orders. Otherwise, he could make the Blood Soul Seal explode with a single thought. The demonic beast would also explode and die. As for the demonic beast controlled by the Blood Soul Seal, it would be able to continue cultivating without any effect. Right now, there were demonic beasts everywhere in the beast region. Du Xiaofu was rather interested in the Blood Soul Seal. This beast control technique is a bit too terrifying. After sweeping through the Blood Soul Seal's cultivation method with his consciousness, Du Xiaofu sucked in a breath of cold air once more. The Blood Soul Seal required one to use one's own blood essence, and several types of medicinal ingredients to refine into a pill. Finally, one had to use one's soul power to condense it into a seal. The Blood Soul Seal's power also depended on the strength of one's soul power. By condensing a seal with one's soul power, and inserting it into the demonic beast's mind, one could use the beast control technique to control the demonic beast. Du Xiaofu had absolute confidence in his soul power. However, what made Du Xiaofu's hair stand on end was the process of extracting blood essence. The blood essence had to not be from one's own bloodline, but from one's own bone marrow. According to the heavenly spirit record, the blood essence in one's bone marrow was the purest. However, the easiest way to extract blood essence from one's bone marrow, according to the heavenly spirit record, was to use one's own talisman flames to refine the blood essence. Using talisman flames to refine one's own blood essence? Just thinking about it made Du Xiaofu suck in a breath of cold air. That kind of pain was enough to make one wish they were dead. How many people could endure it? Freak, this is too freakish. It can't be fake, right? Du Xiaofu couldn't help but wonder whether or not the blood-soul seal was fake. However, despite his suspicions, Du Xiaofu had already taken out quite a few cosmos pouches. One by one, he opened them and searched for the spirit medicines needed to refine the blood-soul seal. An hour later, Du Xiaofu was lucky enough to find the final spirit medicine needed to refine the blood-soul seal. Chapter 13:24. Permetha grass, psychic fat, blood-gathering Ganoderma, and so on. Du Xiaofu placed these medicinal ingredients in front of him one by one. The spiritual ingredients recorded in the heavenly spirit record were the same as in this world. They weren't too precious and weren't hard to find. Let's start cultivating. To Du Xiaofu, who had already experienced the pain of having his heart dug out, this method of cultivating the blood-soul seal was hair-raising, but it couldn't stop Du Xiaofu. From the start of his cultivation until now, the fusion of his bones, the refinement of his body with purple-gold profound lightning, Du Xiaofu had experienced a lot of unbearable physical torment. Most likely, any one of them was even worse than cultivating the blood-soul seal. Qi-La, the mysterious runes on his body surged out, forming a spiritual furnace. Immediately, a roaring flame rose up, causing the temperature of the surrounding space to rise. Swish, swish. Afterwards, stock after stock of spiritual ingredients were thrown into the spiritual furnace by Du Xiaofu. Although Du Xiaofu didn't spend as much time on refining pills as he did on the martial path, Du Xiaofu had always stood on the Tao of alchemy. However, in the Tao of talismans, Du Xiaofu had always stood on the shoulders of giants. At this moment, he was absolutely a genuine 8-star origin talisman master. The pills he was refining weren't very high-level pills, so for the current Du Xiaofu, it wasn't anything difficult. As time passed, after a short hour, the flames in the spiritual furnace in front of Du Xiaofu surged. The temperature of the surrounding space also reached an extremely high level. Stock after stock of spiritual ingredients had already turned into a dense spiritual liquid in the raging flames. Huff! Withdrawing his hand seal, Du Xiaofu's mind spied into the spiritual furnace. Afterwards, he took a deep breath. The first step had been completed smoothly. The second step. Du Xiaofu's expression became serious. The second step was to extract the blood essence from the body. The heavenly spirit record recorded that if one couldn't resist the burning of the flames, one would be seriously injured and become a cripple. In the worst case, one would be directly burned to ashes. Chest rising and falling, after taking a deep breath, Du Xiaofu's expression also became serious. After memorizing the method of extracting blood essence from the heavenly spirit record, a white divine light spread out from his body. Ancient and boundless, a strange hand seal condensed in Du Xiaofu's hand. Bang! Immediately, blazing flames from within Du Xiaofu's body spread out. These flames from the inside, the outside, the outside, the inside was only the outside was only the surface was permeating the outside. The inside the body was, the flames, the bones, the bones, the bones. Humph! At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body suddenly trembled, and a muffled groan came from his throat. His ruddy face gradually turned pale at this moment. The intense pain of the flames burning his bones was even more tragic than Du Xiaofu had imagined. Although Du Xiaofu's body had already reached an abnormal level, It was also because of this that it was even more difficult to refine the blood essence from within this abnormal body. The flames burned inside his body. His internal organs were also instantly enveloped by the flames. This kind of pain was simply not something an ordinary person could endure. In this kind of pain, Du Xiaofu could only forcibly endure it. While enduring the intense pain, his mind still had to control the flames to refine his bones. The flames filled his body, burning his meridians and causing his muscles to shrink. The blazing flames shuttled through his meridians, bringing about intense pain. The terrifying heat spread throughout Du Xiaofu's body. At this moment, the terrifying heat of the flames could probably even refine a Dao artifact. Although Du Xiaofu's body was abnormal, it was still made of flesh and blood. Most importantly, from the inside out, he still couldn't use his strength to resist. Under the terrifying heat, Du Xiaofu finally couldn't control himself and screamed out. His face twisted and his meridians shriveled up under the high temperature. The pain of the burning bones made Du Xiaofu's body tremble uncontrollably. Du Xiaofu screamed non-stop. Blood began to drip from his mouth. His bones and skin began to dry and burn. His pores exuded blood and sweat. Blood began to flow out of his 7 orifices. He looked like a malicious spirit. The intense pain came from his bone marrow. It was so painful that it was better to die than to live. Du Xiaofu continued to scream miserably. It was incomparably mournful. Fortunately, at this moment in the ancient desolate space, no one could hear it. In this inhuman pain, Du Xiaofu's meridians and bones finally began to bleed. This blood flowed along his meridians and finally formed a bright red blood essence. It's effective! While screaming miserably, Du Xiaofu was delighted. This blood essence was the purest blood essence in his bone marrow. As more and more blood essence appeared, Du Xiaofu clenched his teeth and continued to resist the pain. Pooh! Finally, a mouthful of golden blood essence was spouted from Du Xiaofu's mouth, falling directly into the spiritual stove symbol cauldron in front of him. Gee! Just as that mouthful of golden blood essence fell into the spiritual stove symbol cauldron, a shrill sound was heard, immediately causing the inside of the cauldron to glint with golden light. The golden light was like the sun rising from the east. A faint image of a golden-winged rock appeared, shaking the spiritual stove symbol cauldron to the point of cracking. Pooh! This sudden change made Du Xiaofu's blood boil. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, he almost lost his mind, and his expression changed greatly. Chi! At the same time, Du Xiaofu's hand seals kept changing. In the spiritual stove symbol cauldron in front of him, raging flames suddenly burst out with a terrifying temperature, suppressing the image of the golden-winged rock. That was the tyrannical energy contained in the blood essence. The blood in Du Xiaofu's body was no different from that of the golden-winged rock. The tyrannical energy contained in the rock's blood was absolutely not ordinary, to say nothing of such a pure blood essence. But this blood essence was Du Xiaofu's own. Suppressing it with all his strength, he finally made it disappear. Afterwards, Du Xiaofu carefully controlled the raging flames, letting the spiritual liquid and blood essence inside the spiritual stove symbol cauldron slowly condense. This process required a lot of time, and the spiritual liquid and the golden blood essence finally started to thoroughly fuse together, finally turning into a faint golden color. At this moment, a pure energy spread out from the spiritual stove symbol cauldron. Pill condensation. As the time was almost up, Du Xiaofu let out a shout, and the faint golden energy inside the spiritual stove symbol cauldron gradually condensed into an embryonic pill under the raging flames. The pill slowly took shape, and a rich medicinal fragrance filled the air. Du Xiaofu revealed a happy look, and waved his hand. At the same time the spiritual stove symbol cauldron in front of him dissipated, a faint golden pill appeared, filled with a rich aura of energy. Blood Soul Pill. Du Xiaofu extended his hand, grabbing the pill in his palm. His deathly pale face revealed a smile. Refining the Blood Soul Seal required this Blood Soul Pill, and it was finally successfully condensed. Let's practice the Blood Soul Seal. Tossing the pill in his hand, Du Xiaofu waved his hand, and abruptly opened his mouth, immediately swallowing the blood soul pill into his stomach. In a split second, the blood soul pill turned into a strange energy, spreading inside Du Xiaofu's body, before finally rushing to his brain. The most difficult step was already over, but at this moment, Du Xiaofu's expression became even more grave. This was already the most crucial step, and if he failed now, all his previous efforts would be wasted. Changing his hand signs once again, Du Xiaofu's soul force started to surge. Controlling the soul force wasn't too difficult for Du Xiaofu. Controlling the peculiar silver-yellow soul force, it intertwined with the pill's energy like an electric arc. Blood essence as a guide, soul as a seal, condense for me. Du Xiaofu muttered some words, and his hand signs changed rapidly. The silver-yellow soul force in his brain fused with the blood soul pill's energy, filling the air with a dazzling electric arc bang. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's forehead seemed to be pulled in. Electric arcs vaguely lingered on his forehead, and an extremely powerful and strange aura erupted. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's soul force fused with the blood soul pill's energy in his brain. The light became more and more dazzling, and talisman inscriptions surged out like lightning, dazzling and resplendent. Roar, roar! At the same time, the roars of beasts vaguely rang out from Du Xiaofu's body. They were like the roars of lions and tigers, like the cries of dragons and phoenixes. At the same time, a tremendous pressure radiated from Du Xiaofu's body. The light in Du Xiaofu's head was also dazzling. In the end, a blood-red figure appeared, like blood. The figure seemed like a dragon, but it wasn't a dragon, and it seemed like a tiger, but it wasn't a tiger. It seemed extremely mysterious, and it radiated with a tremendous pressure. Roar! Suddenly, at the same time, in Du Xiaofu's mind's Naiwen Palace, a golden light suddenly erupted from the golden and silver-yellow talisman inscriptions. The dazzling golden light transformed into golden talisman inscriptions. In the end, to Du Xiaofu's surprise, the dragon-like and tiger-like figure was directly destroyed, and it finally condensed into the figure of a golden-winged rock. Not only that, the golden-winged rock's figure emitted a dazzling silver-yellow electric arc, and it radiated with the pressure of a sovereign. In the end, it exploded in his mind's Naiwen Palace. Huff! Du Xiaofu withdrew his hand seal, and the aura around his body calmed down. In his mind's Naiwen Palace, there was an energy seal occupying it. It seemed to be the blood soul seal. However, Du Xiaofu was a little confused. The blood soul seal recorded in the heavenly spirit record should be blood red. However, the blood soul seal that Du Xiaofu had cultivated seemed to be silver yellow in color. Chapter 1325. Could it be that I failed? Du Xiaofu was puzzled, his mind astonished. His hand seals immediately formed as he activated the blood soul seal. Boom! The instant Du Xiaofu's hand seals formed, the blood soul seal entrenched in his mind rapidly turned into a surge of energy that burrowed into his meridians, rushing out from all the meridians and acupoints in his body before finally condensing on his right palm. Roar! The roar of a dragon, tiger, phoenix, and lion rang out from Du Xiaofu's palm. A terrifying aura shook the surrounding space, causing it to rumble and tremble. A supreme aura spread out, accompanied by flashes of lightning and roars of thunder, silver-yellow arcs of electricity exploding. At the same time, a strange seal mysteriously appeared on Du Xiaofu's right palm. This seal was the shadow of a golden-winged rock, its entire body glowing with golden light and carrying silver-yellow arcs of electricity. However, Du Xiaofu was completely puzzled. According to the heavenly spirit record, when the blood soul seal was finally completed, the seal should be like a dragon, but not a dragon, like a tiger, but not a tiger, completely blood red. However, the blood soul seal that he had cultivated now seemed completely different. However, sensing the aura of the blood soul seal, Du Xiaofu could clearly feel that its aura was like that of a supreme being. It should be extremely intimidating to demonic beasts. Pondering in his mind, Du Xiaofu finally came to some conclusions. Perhaps because the blood in his body was no different from the blood of the golden-winged rock, his essence blood was even more abundant. Furthermore, His primordial spirit had fused with two types of spirit lightning and spirit root, so the final blood-soul seal was somewhat different from what was recorded in the heavenly spirit record. If there's a chance, I'll have to try it to know if it succeeds. Looking at this somewhat different blood-soul seal in his hand, Du Xiaofu felt rather helpless. He then put the blood-soul seal away. Du Xiaofu could only wait for an opportunity to personally test out the effects of this blood-soul seal. He didn't know if this blood-soul seal had succeeded. As for the effect of the blood-soul seal, Du Xiaofu was not sure. The Heaven Spirit record stated that the effects of the blood-soul seal depended on the user's strength. Strictly speaking, it depended on the strength of the user's soul. The blood-soul seal was not only activated by Xian Qi, but also by soul power. The more powerful one's soul power was, the more powerful the blood-soul seal would be. However, the blood-soul seal was very special at the moment. Therefore, Du Xiaofu could not judge the power of the blood-soul seal he was cultivating. Cultivating the blood-soul seal consumed a lot of energy, and the pain he suffered was not ordinary. However, this was the ancient desolate space. Du Xiaofu was not worried that he would not have enough time. After stuffing many elixirs into his mouth, Du Xiaofu continued to sit cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. This time, Du Xiaofu had not only expended the Xian Qi in the God Watchtower, but also his primordial spirit and soul energy. Walala! A moment later, Du Xiaofu's entire body was enveloped in a mysterious white light. The white light was like a divine light, and it emitted an ancient and boundless pressure. Where did this little girl come from? Where did she come from? All the elixirs in the medicinal field have been eaten. This won't do. Let's find that little girl. She's the one who stole it. Protector, we can't catch that little girl at all. She's too fast. We're not her match. Protector, something bad has happened. The 9 Suns Supreme Profound Fruit that the clan has been guarding for 3,000 years has also been eaten raw by that little girl. Damn it, this is too despicable. Find her. All of you, go and find her. You must find her. In front of the courtyard at the mountainside, dozens of figures that were shining with golden light appeared in the sky like the sun. Where is that little girl? Hand her over. A young man from the golden-winged rock tribe looked down at Zixian, the divine ape king, the ghost chariot, the spiritual tiger king, and the zither devil. Zixian lifted her eyes slightly and glanced at the young man from the golden-winged rock tribe. She has already disappeared from your pursuit. How can she come back? You can find her yourselves. No, you must hand her over today. The young man refused to back down. He was determined to get everyone to hand her over. We really don't know where she is, but we are guests of your clan. You should be more polite. Otherwise, you will end up like Jialo Jiao. If you want to find her, you can find her yourselves, Zixian said indifferently. The purple eyes on her peerless face suddenly turned cold. An invisible aura spread out from her body, causing the young men and women of the golden-winged rock tribe to tremble. Let's go. We must find that brat. The young man's expression was ugly, but after weighing the pros and cons, he gritted his teeth and left. Master, this is not good. The Purple Dragon Emperor has caused trouble. As the young men and women of the golden-winged rock tribe left, the divine ape king asked Zixian worriedly. The elders of the golden-winged rock tribe will not lower themselves to attack a brat. As long as it is not Jialo Kaling, the younger generation of the golden-winged rock tribe will not be able to do anything to little Xingxing. Don't worry, let them be, Zixian said indifferently, as if she was not worried at all. The divine ape king, the spiritual tiger king, and the violent bear king looked at each other, but there was nothing they could do. Anyway, they did not dare to cause trouble in the golden-winged rock tribe. Only the Purple Dragon Emperor was fearless. As a result, the golden-winged rock tribe was in an uproar. There were people everywhere searching for little Xingxing. Unfortunately, even if someone found the news, the result was that the troops were beaten black and blue and had to return in a sorry state. It was said that even a Nirvana Beast sovereign-level protector could only watch little Xingxing leave in the end. Fortunately, little Xingxing knew her limits. She would not injure anyone severely, let alone kill them. As a result, the elders and experts of the golden-winged rock tribe were too embarrassed to make a big fuss over a little girl. Among the younger generation, Jialo Juyu was already severely injured. As for the others, it seemed that no one could do anything to little Xingxing. Where did that brat come from? Why is she so strong? Many people in the golden-winged rock tribe were discussing and sighing. That brat is too hateful. On a mountain peak, Jialo Kaling's expression did not look too good. Back then, the brat said that she would regret it if she brought her back to the tribe. She did not believe her. At this moment, Jialo Kaling knew that the brat was a scourge. She did not know how the brat found the herb field and ruined so many spiritual herbs. Many of the natural treasures in the tribe also did not escape the brat's scourge. At this moment, Jialo Kaling naturally did not know that in terms of scourges, Du Xiaofu still had two big scourges by his side. However, compared to little Xingxing, they were not inferior. Fortunately, those two scourges did not enter the territory of the golden-winged great rocks. Otherwise, not to mention the medicinal field of the golden-winged great rocks, even the treasury of the golden-winged great rocks would be ruined. While the golden-winged rock tribe was in chaos, Du Xiaofu, who was in the desolate ancient space, had finally recovered to his peak state. There was still enough time. He had only cultivated the blood-soul seal for a few days in the desolate ancient space. It was not even a day outside. A cosmos sack appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. This cosmos sack was the one that Du Xiaofu had exchanged with Long Bao and Long Feng by threatening Long Eight with Long Eight. When Du Xiaofu first saw the contents of the cosmos sack, his calm face and body could not help but tremble violently. Golden light gushed out from his eyes, and he even agreed to release Long Eight. This was because the contents of the cosmos sack were too important to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu had never imagined that something that could only be chanced upon and not sought after would actually end up in his hands like this. Begin to comprehend. Du Xiaofu's heart sank. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and opened the cosmos sack. A faint aura spread out. It was very ordinary. As the Qiankun bag was opened, a smile involuntarily surfaced on Du Xiaofu's face. Golden light once again surged out from his clear eyes. Granny, why are you here alone? In a deep valley, a little girl who looked to be about 5 or 6 years old squatted on the ground. She raised her head slightly and asked curiously to an old woman who was sweeping the ground. On her chubby face, her big eyes were enchanting. I've been here for a long time. Little girl, how did you come here? Are you from the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan? The old woman's figure was hunched over. She put down her broom and curiously asked the little girl. I'm not from the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan. They're so hateful. Not long ago, I couldn't stand them bullying my father. I ate some elixirs to vent my anger. They chased me everywhere. I was so tired from chasing. Seeing that this place is quiet, I came to hide. The little girl laughed and licked her lips. She was still thinking about it. It had been a long time since she had eaten so full and carefree. Who's your father? The old woman asked the little girl with a smile on her old face. My father's name is Demon King Du Xiaofu. The young people of the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan couldn't do anything to my father, so they let the old man do it. They're too shameless. One day, I'll definitely become strong and come back to teach these Golden-Winged Great Rock clan a lesson. Little Xingxing pouted and suddenly looked at the old woman warily. She said, Granny, don't tell me you're also from the Golden-Winged Great Rock clan? Don't worry. I can't be bothered to care about them. The old woman smiled and looked at the little girl. So you're my grandson's daughter. If that's the case, I've become a great-grandmother. Don't worry. Just stay here with your great-grandmother. Those guys won't dare to chase after you. You're my father's grandmother? The little girl clearly didn't believe her. Of course. I'm already so old. Why would I lie to a little girl like you? The old woman smiled benevolently. The Golden-Winged Great Rock clan was in a mess because of the little girl who stole elixirs and treasures. However, the competition for the younger generation was getting closer. Chapter 1326. Translator, H2DH2 Mr. The atmosphere of the entire great golden-winged rock tribe was tense. To all the younger generation disciples, this was a major event of their lives, and they did not dare to be careless. The tall mountain was lush and green. On the mountain peak, golden light emanated from a huge, ancient stone cave, shooting up into the sky and dyeing half the sky as if golden clouds were blotting out the sun. An immense pressure descended, causing everyone to feel suffocated. More than 20 extraordinary young men and women stood respectfully in front of the stone cave, as if waiting for something, their expressions respectful and yearning. When the golden light gradually faded, a figure slowly walked out from within the stone cave, appearing strangely in front of everyone and stretching lazily against the sunlight. This was a young man who looked to be around 27 or 28 years old. He was dressed in a light yellow robe with gold trimmings, making him look like a flawless jade man. Even though he was standing there quietly, this young man was still extraordinarily handsome and charming, giving people a feeling of nobility and elegance, but also making people not dare to look directly at him. "Greetings, Second Commander!" The 20 or so young men and women immediately bowed respectfully. "Rise. Has the tribe been peaceful recently?" The handsome young man waved his sleeves and stood, looking at the many young men and women before him as he asked. "Second Commander, many things have happened in the tribe recently." A beautiful woman stood up and looked at the handsome young man. The light in her eyes rippled, a kind of ripple that came from the depths of her heart. "Tell me about it." The handsome young man was interested, and the smile on his face made him even more handsome. "The senior commander brought a human called Du Xiaofu into the tribe. It is said that the human has the mystic bone of our great golden-winged rock tribe and the wings of the great golden-winged rock tribe, so he can activate the mystical abilities of our tribe. Even the blood in his body is no different from the rock blood in our bodies. The fourth commander was seriously injured by him. There is also a little girl. It is said that she is Du Xiaofu's daughter. She ate a lot of spirit herbs in the herb field and dug up a lot of natural treasures. The fourth commander was seriously injured, and the senior commander did not make a move. None of us were a match for him. The 6 protectors did make a move, but they didn't gain much of an advantage. That little girl even managed to escape." A youth finished speaking in one breath. Thinking about the recent events in the clan, he felt somewhat depressed. Not only were they unable to deal with the Demon King Du Xiaofu, but they were also unable to deal with the Demon King's daughter. As a member of the younger generation of the golden-winged great rocks, the blow he received this time was definitely not small. The young man's expression did not change much when he heard this. He still stood there quietly and said, "Did the elders say anything? It's very strange. The elders don't seem to have said anything. It's said that someone from our clan protected that demon king Du Xiaofu." An unordinary youth spoke. This matter was currently being discussed in secret within the clan. They were all puzzled. The odd-looking young man didn't say anything. He just stood there quietly. After a while, he opened his thin lips and asked softly, "Where's third brother?" "Second commander, the third commander seems to still be in seclusion," said a beautiful woman. "I understand. You can all disperse. The competition tomorrow will affect your foundation in the future. Do your best." As soon as the young man finished speaking, golden light surged from beneath his feet. He immediately turned into a golden streak of light and disappeared into the air. "The second commander is already first this time." A youth gazed at the departing figure of the golden streak of light with reverence and yearning in his eyes. "It's said that the second commander could have broken through to the beast domain realm long ago. He only delayed it for over a decade for the sake of this competition," said a woman with ripples in her eyes. "The higher you rank in this competition, the more benefits you'll receive in the end," said a long-haired youth. "The second commander possesses a true bone. He's a rare genius that only appears once in 10,000 years in our clan. No one in the same generation can match him up to now. If he were in the outside world, he'd be able to crush all living things." A woman's eyes surged with golden light. Her eyes were filled with endless yearning and envy. The height of the mountain was unknown, Standing at the peak of the mountain, surrounded by clouds and mist, one could see the undulating peaks as far as the eye could see. It was like a jade screen with leaves. The majestic mountain ranges on the left and right were towering like the east and west. It was vast and boundless. On the peak of the mountain stood a graceful figure. She looked to be around 27 or 28 years old. Her beauty revealed a valiant and heroic spirit. She wore tight orange clothes that outlined the curves of her graceful body. It was enough to make one's nose bleed. Whoosh! An odd-looking youth landed on the mountain peak. He looked at the woman in front of him and raised his eyebrows slightly. He said, "I heard that you brought back a human who possesses a secret bone of our clan. Could it be related to Zhu Jiao?" The woman turned her head. Her legs were straight and slender. She looked like a goddess in autumn. She had a short sword at her waist. It was Jialo Kaling. She looked at the youth and said, "It has nothing to do with Zhu Jiao." Hearing this, the odd-looking youth's eyes went blank for a moment. There was an indescribable change in his expression. "Are you worried that Zhu Jiao will come back?" Jialo Kaling looked at the odd-looking youth. Her eyes were suffused with a faint golden light. "He didn't defeat me in the battle back then. So many years have passed. Even if he comes back, do you think he can defeat me?" The odd-looking youth's handsome face revealed a faint smile. He sighed slightly at Jialo Kaling and said, "I'm just worried about how he is doing outside. It has been almost 100 years. He will destroy himself. If I knew he would have left back then, I would have given up on the benefits of the clan. He has the demonic bone. This isn't something he can decide." Jialo Kaling looked into the distance. After a while, she said, "Everything is his choice. It has nothing to do with you. You didn't break through to the beast region because you were waiting for him, right? Are you hoping that he will come back?" The odd-looking youth smiled faintly. He looked at the tall and slender figure in front of him and said, "You broke through to the beast region because you don't want to fight with me tomorrow. Others might not know, but I know." Jialo Kaling turned around and looked at the odd-looking youth. Her eyes were suffused with a golden brilliance. She said, "Our golden-winged Great Pink Clan will need you to lead us in the future. One day, you will need to shoulder this heavy responsibility. You have the true bone. This is your responsibility. I will protect the entire clan with my life." The odd-looking youth nodded. His eyes were firm and sharp. They flickered with a golden light. The blood of the golden-winged Great Pink Clan flowed in his body. He would protect the entire clan until the end. "I'm not worried about you. If Zhu Jiao is also in the clan, we will be able to work together. Why would we need to fear the dragons?" Jialo Kaling raised her eyes and looked into the distance. Beneath her snow-white skin, there was a faint layer of rouge. Her eyelashes fluttered slightly. She was incomparably domineering. The odd-looking youth smiled faintly and stood with his hands behind his back. A gentle breeze swept across the mountain peak. His light yellow robe fluttered with the wind. After a while, he opened his thin lips and said, "That human shouldn't have the golden-winged Great Pink Clan's secret bone and great pink golden wings in his body." Jialo Kaling didn't turn her head. She said softly to the odd-looking youth, "I have to tell you that my grandmother has already recognized him as her grandson." "Is that so?" When the odd-looking youth heard this, his handsome face clearly changed for the first time. After a while, he muttered softly, "A human. Does he have the qualifications?" Night fell. The stars in the sky twinkled. The great competition of the younger generation was finally going to begin tomorrow. This caused the younger generation of the golden-winged Great Pink Clan to be unable to calm down. All the younger generation of the golden-winged Great Pink Clan knew that the more outstanding one was in the great competition of the younger generation, the greater the benefits one would receive. However, in the end, only 10 people would be able to receive the benefits of the clan's final reward. That benefit only came once every few hundred years. Once they missed it, they would have no fate with it in this lifetime. Although only 10 people would be able to receive the benefits from the clan in the end, this didn't stop the younger generation from crazily looking forward to this great competition. All the younger generation of the clan would compete and display their strength. To the golden-winged Great Pink Clan, this was enough to make the blood in their bodies boil. Moreover, although no one dared to think about the first place, all the disciples of the golden-winged Great Pink Clan already had an idea about the second place in their hearts. However, in any case, there were still other places, which were enough for them to fight for with all their might. The night passed slowly amidst the complicated and expectant feelings of the golden-winged Great Pink Clan. When the bright moon in the sky set in the west and the remnant stars gradually disappeared, a ray of morning light poured down from the eastern horizon. Hoo-hoo! Instantly, within the entire golden-winged Great Pink Clan, there were many auras that were awakened. Then, they spread throughout the entire clan. On the mountain peaks, there were golden eyes mixed with blazing battle intent that shot into the sky and shook the sky. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.